In the deep abyss of space, the sound of somebody screaming for help is heard. Within a giant spaceship, people were shouting that something was coming and they were all going to die, urging each other to close the doors so they could save themselves, screaming for the monster to get away from them. However, it was of no use. A sickening crunch could be heard as a sound of bones crackling filled the halls of the spaceship, blood splattering all across the windows. People screamed out for help, but all that remained was the dying noises echoing in the space. The last words a person could utter were begging somebody for help. Back in the halls of the space station, which was now covered with flesh-like biomass, the tendrils wriggled around and thumped as if they were alive, turning the once pristine space station into a deformed-looking ruin. Just then, a foot stomps on one of the fleshy tendrils, crushing it, as a group of soldiers make their way through the halls. Their earpieces instruct all soldiers on the ship to assemble at the captain's cabin. The order is then repeated once more, but the soldier leading to the group shuts it off, showing distaste towards the instructions. Another soldier asks him if they should be going there too, but the first soldier replies saying that they don't need to follow the orders of somebody who only cares about saving himself, and that they will do this according to their plan. He mentioned how they had to save as many people as possible, and this was an order, as the soldiers followed him deeper into the space station, but as they turned the corner, they suddenly heard a voice calling out to them. Of course, the voice asked if anybody was there, pleading for help. The soldiers followed the voice as if it continued to ask for help, coughing between sentences as they finally reached the room where the voice was coming from, only to find, to their absolute horror, mountains of dead bodies piling all across the room. The soldiers were absolutely horrified, with some even feeling sick by what they were seeing as the others warned them to stay on alert. One of them said that he would stay and keep watch, asking the rest of them to go and find the survivors as quickly as possible. As they were looking around, one of the soldiers heard the voice calling out for help again and turned around to see a man buried in the pile of dead bodies, asking for help to get out of there. Seeing this, the soldier rushed over to help him. However, stopping right in his tracks, he realized that the voice did not belong to a man. No. What he found there was a monster, mimicking a human's voice as it moved the dead hand around. Seeing the monster, the soldier cried out, grabbing the attention of his friends. But before he could do anything, the monster grabbed him by the face and eliminated him by breaking his neck before proceeding to rip his stomach open and eat the soldier's flesh, and this is kind of grueling. Looking at the monster before them, the soldiers opened fire, trying to get a good shot at the monster with their laser guns. However, to their surprise, the monster manages to easily dodge their bullets, evading all attacks swiftly as it makes its way towards the soldiers. Getting near, the monster digs its nails into its own arm, making itself bleed before splattering its blood on the soldiers. The blood, upon reaching the soldiers, melts through their suits and starts melting off their skin as they realize in horror that it is acidic blood. Oh gosh. Seeing his friend screaming in pain, another soldier tells him to calm down, saying that he will inject the medicine. But while rushing over to them, he is hit by a stray shot, knocking him unconscious. The only sounds he could hear were more shooting and pained screams of his teammates. Waking up after hearing his suit notify him that his emergency treatment was complete, instructing him to get to the medical room immediately. The soldier then opened up his eyes slowly to see the monster munching on his teammate. What the heck is going on? Enraged, the soldier gathered the last of his strength to throw a grenade at the monster as his last resort. However, as he was about to throw it, his hand was caught by the monster looking at him sarcastically. Then a small slimy blob came out of the monster's body as it hissed at it, seemingly telling it something. The smile hopped off the monster's body before jumping at the soldiers as it covered his body, dissolving it within himself. After finishing its meal, the slime hopped back on the monster's shoulder as it let out a burp, snuggling up to the monster. Just then, the monster notices a closed door as it heads towards it. Trying to open the lock with a hand from one of the soldiers, the monster fails as the system declares that access was denied. Disappointed, the monster turns around to see the slime holding up the grenade the soldier was about to throw before. The monster takes the grenade, throwing it at the door as the two hide behind a wall to avoid the blast. Of course, heading back to the now broken door, the monster is happy to find two people who were hiding behind it, and they are now panicking. The men let out a scream before getting attacked by the monster. After all, he was a monstrous alien creature, and all he did was feed, grow, survive, and evolve. In the middle of the vast universe, in the cargo hold of a cold metal ship, The man had to admit that he had become a hostile alien creature in a space fantasy survival game. Space Survival was an RPG game where one chooses one of the various species that exist in the vast outer space and survive, explore, and evolve. Sometimes you would become a metallic gremlin ripping out human ships, or become a mutant monster and massacre the enemies on the ground. Or you could become a group leader with collective intelligence and attack other planets. The man had played all space monsters that are likely to appear in nightmares, but he had only one favorite species. The unidentified aggressive space morph was also known as UASM. The man called it a morph. Its motive was based on the creature that appears in an alien movie, and it was a race that reinforced itself endlessly with the genetic information of its victims. It may seem to be the strongest of all, but because of its difficulty in the level of survival and having no ability to converse with other species or cooperate, it was considered one of the worst minority species in this game. It was simple though, why one of the worst species became the man's favorite. It evolved according to choice and willpower and became strong that way. That is what attracted the man to do it. Looking at the status screen before himself describing the species and its goal of survival, the man scratched his head, realizing that he had become an alien. And it was all because that he liked that alien movie. Thinking that there was no point in thinking about it, he suddenly flipped around, itching horribly as he shed his old skin. Thinking how he did not know that molting was such an uncomfortable process. He then got up to find something to eat, for he was as hungry as ever, and it was getting painful. Looking around the cargo hold, the monster thought how it looked like the ship belonged to Megacob or Star Union, looking at their design. Realizing that he would get eliminated if he got caught, activating his super sense, he looked through the storage and all the containers to find anything he could eat. Finally finding something, he rushed over to a green cargo shipment before jumping on top of it. Seeing the number pad of the lock, he was happy that it was a passcode lock. Thinking about the password, he input 1234 into the lock, only to have it open easily. And come on guys, 1234, that's just way too easy, man. Of course, he says that the security was quite lousy for a space game. And getting into the container, the monster ripped open one of the nutrient bars inside, eating it. It felt like he was chewing on rubber, but at least he got his nutrients. Just then, a cockroach ran past him as a monster went alert and stabbed the insect with the tip of its tail, and rest in peace to that little cockroach. Looking at the roach, the monster ate it, thinking how it was juicy, and yeah, I guarantee you guys, I've never had a cockroach, but it's probably not juicy. Suddenly, the status window popped back up, notifying him that the prediction effect or the predation effect had been activated, and he had successfully acquired the wing gene essence. Asking if the monster would like to apply the wings, and of course, the monster was so happy, for he was so lucky that he could acquire the gene essence this quickly, and man, what a fortune, and all you had to do was eat a cockroach. Genetic essences were a key component of a morph's operation. The more gene information it acquires, the stronger it can become. Looking at the wings gene, the monster happily clicked on yes as the flesh on its back started to grow, taking the form of a pair of insect-like wings. The monster was happy when the wings he gained, but a question in his mind still stood: how could he move them? Thinking that since they were on his back, he wondered if he should move his trapezius muscle, making the wings twitch. Finally, he got a good grasp on how to use his new limbs as he took off into the air with his wings flapping. But then he suddenly got tired and was forced to chomp down on the rest of the nutrients because of his hunger. He realized that he was burning more calories than he thought he would, chowing down on the nutrient bars as he peeked down at more cockroaches moving around on the floor, and please don't eat them. There was a skill he must have if he wanted to utilize his wings properly, and there was his first target. Stabbing another cockroach with his tail, he ate it up quickly like it is a mukbang, and then of course he eats 20 cockroaches in total, but that still wasn't enough. On the bright side, however, they did taste like chicken, and guys, I don't think you guys should try this at home. Opening the status window, the monster saw that his new skills were now listed, including wings and a chitin shell. The chitin shell increased its defense depending on the growth level, making it a good ability, but one that will take time to fully develop. He needed to secure strong vitality characteristics, but it was not as easy as it sounded. Strong vitality was a characteristic that slowed aging by reducing energy consumption, and it was a common characteristic of passive insects or plant types, and it greatly reduced the need to dwell on food. That just meant he needed to catch more roaches if he wanted to survive. Changing positions by jumping on other containers, the monster flew in the air for a little as he spotted a few more cockroaches from above. Diving down swiftly, he caught the roach with his pincers, chomping down on it as fast as he could, and seeing the scurrying insect, he thought how he couldn't lose it, rushing after the roach before crashing into the containers as the roach went between the gap. Still seeing the insect within his range, the monster quickly stabbed it with its tail, pulling it back before eating it. After he had completely finished eating the cockroach, the predation effect activated once again, and the status window popped up showing that he had successfully acquired the tough life gene and attained the strong vitality of roaches, asking if he wanted the skill. The monster excitedly clicked yes, as his muscles began to grow and his body became stronger. Seeing his new improved body, the monster was really happy. Looking at the ship, he thought how the owner of the spaceship, mankind, was his new enemy. The vibrations coming through the walls and the faint sound of footsteps told him there was not much time left. To avoid the looming dark future, he needed to overcome the hatching stage as quickly as possible, and to do that, he needed to expand the scope of his activity beyond the cargo hold. It was only the beginning. It was time for him to break free from this cargo hold that he first stepped into. Where would he go next? The monster had already decided his next destination. Crawling up to the air vents, he thought about how he needed to go to the cooling chamber next to the reactor. It was an important facility, so there won't be many problems and no one would see what was under their noses. Otherwise, he could just break the cooling chamber and make a run for it. Breaking into the vents after unscrewing the cover, the monster decided to head over in the general direction. However, it stopped in its tracks as he saw a fan blade spinning right in front of him, thinking how intense this was. Unscrewing the fan cover, the monster realized that if he damaged the ventilation, the ship's AI would report back to the humans, so he will have to pass through the blades at the exact time. Now was the time for him to rely on a morph's powers. Activating his super senses, he can feel the iron oxide and fine metal powder mixed into the air, and bro thinks he's got some spidey senses or something. In addition, the points of the rotating blades were so worn out, to the point that they would slow down slightly at a certain point. Of course, this is actually to his advantage, and so his brain was speaking after reviewing all the information, telling him to jump in now as he sprinted towards the fan at full speed. It was definitely now or never, and in that single moment, he was able to fly through the blades, barely avoiding it as his tail got scraped. Making it across, he was relieved that he did it and that he was alive, thinking about what he should do next as he made his way through the vents, finding and eating spiders that he came across, and yeah, I guess he might actually become Spider-Man. Of course, stopping around the vent cover where he could hear some people talk, the monster stopped and listened in to their conversation. A man said how they had another failure with his friend, complaining how their boss was going to yell at them again. And yeah, this is kind of typical. Megacob was a thriving human group around the solar system. Simply put, they were a race based on the motif of humans from Earth. In this world, instead of the government, giant corporations dominated the countries and most of the inhabitants were extreme materialists. Most of the human race in the game was neutral, but among them, Megacob was more of the villain, you could say. Megacob was the only group that literally transformed normal humans into slaves, and of course, they were terrible beings in games, let alone in real life. After the men walked away, the monster flew into the rooms from the vents, wondering what there was today. His path depended on what kind of experimental ship this was. If this was a Hulk mutant research center, a mutant soldier specializing in land combat, then he would get a strong body and combat capability, and that would be kind of cool, guys, I'm not gonna lie. Well, you know, he is a monster, so. If this was a place where they had experimented on the superpowers of Colt, a space elf sort of kind, then he can get his hands on strong psychic powers, and it's like that one scene from Saitama beating up that dude on Boris's ship that uses psychic powers. Personally, the monster wished it was a Colt, but he doubted that he would be able to attain psychic powers from such an early stage though. Just then, he heard a faint sound asking for help. Wondering if somebody actually needed help, he followed the sound, finding its source. Before him was a tank with a smile-like creature inside, connected to several wires, and tubes as well, monitoring its condition. It is said that it was in pain asking for help, and the monster recognized that the slime was a bubble amoeba. The characteristics was oxygen saving, a worthless quality for an amorph, so there was no need to actually eat it. The monster then used its super senses to look for clues. Sensing electricity from the bubble amoeba, the monster wondered if this is what the researchers were discussing from before. After taking a little look around, the monster found a button which, according to his super sense, would terminate the experiment if pressed. Of course, pressing the button stopped the machine as the slime thanked the monster, and the monster wished it a good life. Oh gosh. Just then, the monster flinched as he sensed a human approaching the room. Flying away to hide, the monster watched from a corner as he saw a woman enter the lab along with an old man, asking when she should be seeing progress on experiment number 26. The man said that he was sure it was showing a reaction just now, asking the woman for more time. The woman, however, said that time was credit, or time was money, and she needed results to report back to the main company before they arrived here, saying, of course, that if there was no performance, the company might rethink hiring this guy, and the guy was in absolute panic. Just then, somebody caught the woman's eyes as she called the senior researcher, Mr. Wei, over, saying that she did not want that to happen for she had high expectations for him. Walking over to the bubble amoeba tank, she said that if he could get her that aptitude from experiment number 26, his promotion as chief researcher would be an absolute breeze and not a problem at all. Surprised, the man asks if that is true, to which the woman assures him that he would become a chief researcher at least, and yeah, I can just tell this woman's capping. And if things went well here, then he might even be in line with Mars, for they were really interested in their project. The man then asked the woman what she thinks about the administration of psionium, and surprised by the mention of the wake-up drug made by Star Union, she then admitted that it was something that they hadn't tried before. The man mentioned how there were some alternatives beside that, but the woman quickly dismissed him, saying that they have tried everything similar to it by component. Everything but psionium. She then tells Mr. Wei to administer it right away, who hesitates, saying that if it doesn't absorb the neutralizing agent, it would become a life-sustaining problem. The woman points out how they should have results by now, to which Mr. Wei said that he understood. But before he could say anything to the woman, well, the woman shut him down, saying that she hoped that he understood how serious the situation was, and Mr. Wei finally agreed, saying that he would get to it right away as he began administrating that psionium. Of course, starting with a dose of 0.01 milligrams, Mr. Wei steadily increased the dose as a bubble amoeba started to twitch uncontrollably. Satisfied by seeing it show some response, he continued to increase the dose slowly before being interrupted by this woman, and wow, she seems kind of nosy, guys. She said how she thought that he could increase the amount, telling him to use it all, and yeah, this girl is literally crazy. Hearing this, Mr. Wei hesitated to make her understand that it was dangerous, but the woman moved him out of the way before using all of the psionium. As the drug started pumping, the bubble amoeba started to scream in pain, saying that it hurt and crying out for help as its color changed from a pink to a clear white. Seeing the response, the woman started smiling eerily, oh gosh, as the monster watched on from the corner with an uneasy expression. After some time, the screaming died down as a woman looked at the readings with a disappointed face. She exclaimed how this was an interesting result, telling Mr. Wei to run more tests on subject number 26. Mr. Wei asked if that would be okay, looking at the now pale and twitching smile, as a woman assured him that it was, telling him to let her know if there was anything worth knowing before leaving the lab. But just as she was leaving, something caught her eye as she moved to look towards the shelf where the monster was. However, oh gosh, she didn't find anything. Hiding behind the jars, the monster wondered if the slime had just asked him to help, thinking how this was really unpleasant for him and he did not like this one bit. Gritting his teeth, he had made up his mind that the woman was going to die in the next few days, and well, this seems like the first mission of our MC. In the cooling chamber of the ship, the monster spat out a sticky green liquid, happy that his latest project was complete. Using his super senses, the vessel now felt like his body. Information was key in order to win a war. Where and what enemies were doing, where the enemies were, who they were talking to. All this information would be transmitted to him through the liquid that he had applied everywhere. After 4 days of being a morph, his nest was complete. After completing his nest, the monster went back and forth between the nest and the cargo hold, eating roaches and spiders. In the meantime, he had also been spying on his target and collecting information. Watching through the vent, he noticed how the woman was going out at the same time as usual. The woman's name was Kisaragi Yujin, and she was a head researcher of this vessel. The ship may be weak, but she was the most important person on the ship, oh gosh, and she was a hazard to his survival. 2 days ago, an experimental specimen escaped from the lab. While the other researchers were in panic, Kisaragi came up with an exclusive tracking device in just 2 hours. What the heck? She's actually pretty good. And then, of course, they succeeded in capturing the experiment. If the specimen was in the vents, she would have gotten him too, so he needs to kill her as soon as possible. While the monster was watching her, Kisaragi turned back at the vents, thinking how she felt like she was being watched again. The guards asked her if there was a problem, but she said it was nothing. and they should hurry up as the monster hid in the vent sweating. Letting out a sigh of relief, he thought about how she had one heck of a sense for a human being, wondering if she had psychic powers or something. The psychic power was a characteristic unique to Colt. Psychic power was kind of like telekinesis, telepathy, and mind control, making it something similar to a superpower. But sometimes, very rarely among human beings, some were born with potential psychic powers. Thinking about how Kisaragi was skilled, smart, and sensitive, and how she always had armed men with her. The monster pondered on how to approach her while eating some nutrient bars, and wow, this guy really loved his nutrient bars. Opening his status window, he saw that there was now a new skill called Paralyzing Venom. It was a perfect characteristic for somebody like him with such a weak body. A single drop of venom was more than enough to subdue a grown adult. Although it only lasted for 5 minutes, that was enough for our boy. And come on, 5 minutes is kind of long, you can do a lot in 5 minutes. But to use it, he needed to be alone with her, which is going to be difficult as she always had soldiers roam around the halls with her. However, just thinking about it wasn't going to help him at all, and so that made him realize that maybe he should go and get some fresh air, and bro, you're a monster, but hey, anyway. Walking across the ship, the monster made his way back to the lab, peeking around to look at the slime. The slime said how it was glad to see him again, because of course, he is a savior, and the monster said how the slime seemed better than yesterday, saying that he had brought food today, making the slime very happy. The monster put some crumbs of the nutrient bar into the feeding tube as they made their way to the slime. Eating the crumbs, the slime exclaimed how it was super good, as the monster thought that the bubble amoeba had no other skill in the game. He did not know if it was just him or just that one, or it was different from its kind. The monster then remembered how the woman had a cat. Thinking how she seemed to have a strong attachment to her cat in particular, he of course wondered if he would be able to find a flaw if her cat died. The cat did not have bodyguards like Kisaragi, and it was usually alone in the bedroom until its master called for it, so the monster had made up his mind it was going to use the cat to lure out its master, and hey, put a rip down below for this innocent cat. Looking through the vents, the monster saw the cat stretching and meowing lazily. He recalled how the cat's name was Kaiser, thinking how spoiled the cat was. Seeing it roll around lazily on its cushion, the monster thought how it was so fat, because it was being fed way too much food. That just went to show that Kisaragi Yujin was no ordinary person. He thought how it didn't seem like it was going to be hard to kill, but he couldn't kill it right there. The ventilation entrance looked normal on the outside, but from the inside, with Super Sense, there were lots of laser lights everywhere. A single move and the AI of the ship would ring the alarm and send would send like a dozen of soldiers to that room. Irritated by the situation, the monster slapped his tail in the vent, and the sound of which caught the cat's attention as it sprinted right at the vent towards the monster, slamming into the entrance with its claws, causing the alarm to beep. Hearing the sound, 2 soldiers rushed in to see what was happening, only to find the cat playing at the vent. Annoyed that it was just a cat, one of them shouts out how he should just get rid of this cat once and for all, and of course, the monster in the vent was just startled by what just happened. Getting back up, he couldn't believe he just did that, thinking how he shouldn't have attracted it with his tail. Just then, however, another idea crossed his mind. A boring-looking cat, some stimulation, and the reaction of the guards. Letting out a smirk, he finally knew his approach to his plan or operation. Back in the room when the cat was again playing on the cushion, it noticed a rustling sound coming up from the vent, or coming down. Moving in closer to get a better look, the cat found a cockroach twitching near the vent's entrance, and with a sparkle in its eyes, it started to claw at the vent again, causing the vent cover to fall down. And I guess that all monsters or animals just love eating cockroaches, huh? Oh gosh. The cat then jumped down, making the alarm go off once more. And outside the room, one of the soldiers brought up how the alarm had gone off again, as the other pointed out how it must be the cat, saying that he did not want to go check it out now, questioning where the cat would go anyway. For they had been standing guard all this time, there's no way that cat could escape anywhere. The cat, however, continued to follow the roach down the vent, making its way deeper and deeper until it reached the cargo hold. Amazed to see such an open space, the cat peeked its head out of the vent, only to see a twitching cockroach before it, as it failed to notice the monster jumping at it from above. Using his tail, the monster injected the cat with a paralyzing venom, causing its body to freeze up immediately as it fell down on the container coughing. We then see the monster coming at it with its jaws wide open, and then a loud crunch fills the room as a monster exclaims how good his meal was, feasting on the cat's body with ecstasy. And oh gosh guys, this guy really just loves eating everything. Back at the space station, Kisaragi was running anxiously around her ship, making her way to the captain's room, as she asked him just when she would be able to see Kaiser, with the captain assuring her that if she would wait a little longer for his soldiers to look. But she interrupted him, saying that it has been 2 hours already, slamming her hands on his desk and saying how Kaiser was extremely strict about meal times. She was sure that something had happened to him, and the captain said how he had told her before that this was a ship, so unless her cat found a way to escape the vessel, it had to be here somewhere. With Kisaragi demanding to get Kaiser right now, of course the captain again said how the good news would come up if she had just waited a little longer, wondering what was so important about this cat. Gritting his teeth, he thought how only if it weren't for the fact that she was a noble capital, he would have locked her away in solitary right now. Kisaragi then asked the whereabouts of her guards, with the captain replying that they had all been locked away, going on to say that as soon as they arrive at their destination, he would see to it that they are punished properly, but Kisaragi interrupts him, ordering their execution right now. With a fierce look, she says how as the captain, he had the right to have summary disposition, telling him to use it. The captain says how this seemed a bit excessive, for if he made an execution for something like this, the other soldiers would be shaken. Kisaragi asks him about what he meant by something like this, making him flinch, as Kisaragi's anger becomes more and more uncontrollable. Kisaragi then looks back and says, if there is no performance in 2 hours, I will make sure that you will resign your post as captain, and he slams his hand on the desk. We then see our boy, and he is looking on top of the vent again, and we see a notification pop up. He mentions what is this characteristic called wild instinct. We then see that this system is actually a system that combines correlated characteristics into one, and so our MC kind of used it right here, and this is how he knows all the combined systems within the game right to a T, because yeah, he pretty much memorized this. Would you like to apply wild instincts? Of course, our MC clicks yes, and he finally evolves. And he gets predator sensing, and of course he can now detect threats soon in advanced, and he then tries it right here, and there seems to be like shockwaves going around him. He mentions it didn't create an intellectual effect like he had hoped. However, this is actually really good that it is a passive skill, as he keeps on going throughout the vent. He then says, let's see what Kisaragi actually wants here, because he is sure that she is definitely out of it because of the cat. She then slams her hand on the ground, and she has veins popping up for her cheeks. This girl kind of looks like the Joker. She's gone insane. She mentions it's taking too long until stabilization. He says, of course, while he is in the vent, that people like her go out of their minds when, of course, something they own is taken away from them. And that's the only way to separate Yujin and her soldiers, as we see the soldiers outside protecting her room. He says that the cat was being fed only meat here, and all the soldiers were nervous, or not nervous, they were jealous about this, as we see one of them right here, kind of angry. He says that Yujin is the highest ranked noble in Megacob, and so of course nobody would dare protest, and yeah, they really just want this cat dead, because in a way the cat was kind of like a shield. He mentions, but what if the scapegoat appeared, which is the cat, as you see an image right here. He says Yujin will never trust the soldiers again, and of course this was caused by one of the guards' negligence, and so she's definitely going to be pissed. RMC then smiles, and he says, thank you, little kitty cat, as he is eyeing on Kisaragi, and of course she then gets even more furious, and she begins to log into her computer, and we see this sort of lizard testing thing begin to get zapped up. He says everyone here is useless, and come on, you're probably the useless one, Kisaragi. She then is looking at this other one, and she seems to be more attached to this one, as she smiles like crazy. She then taps on the button, and it begins to get loaded up and hurt badly. And of course, she then clicks on something again. However, she then just walks out, and her MC looks super pissed here. And of course, it seems like it is a slime from before. He says there's no need for conversation. However, we hear revenge, and our MC definitely is out for that. Kisaragi is now by the captain, and look how much she has aged. Look at the wrinkles on her face. She says Yu Sung Samuel, and she called our captain by the government name. She then gives a very eerie look, and just the art of this is absolutely insane. Shout out to the authors. And it says right here, are you defying the will of a noble capital? And of course he begins to sweat, saying, I am not. Please regard your remarks, ma'am. She then of course is still getting even more pissed, and this kind of reminds me like Mask Man from One Punch Man. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Our MC is just looking at this and he says that this is a kind of an interesting situation, or it's more kind of funny. She then walks back to her room with the guards protecting her, and now this is a toilet, as she says she needs to go in. The guard, of course, mentions that I need to go too, bro. And yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't like this girl. Our MC begins to crawl at lightning speed going towards the vent of the bathroom. He says that this means that this is his best chance to get this woman Kisaragi. He then looks at from the vent, and it seems like she is just looking at herself in the mirror. She then begins to wash her face and a bit of her hair because she is definitely stressed out. And our MC then he loads up his tail with a spike right here. And yep, rest in peace to Kisaragi. He is then now outside of the vent and is crawling on top of her. We see water dripping from her face, and it seems in a second she flinches, turns around, but it is too late as her MC jumps on top of her. And well, yep, I don't know how she's going to defend herself from this one. She then gets hit a bit and she falls down towards the sink, but then her MC finally stabs her neck, and yep, we see these weird veins grow on her face right here. She falls to her knees and to the ground, and we then see some sort of weird, oh gosh, it's mucus, as her MC is literally just eyeing down Kisaragi. He says, I wonder what's on this lady's mind. I wonder if it's anger or it's the fear of death. And of course, oh gosh, he just eats her whole. We hear a big crunch, and he mentions her genetic information was once in her blood and it reached his brain, and so he felt it, and of course it seems like he is going to reach his full potential. Hatchling youngling, evolution conditions have been met. Would you like to proceed? And our MC is finally glad by this, and look how bloody it is. This is kind of gruel, so hey, be cautious guys. We see memories flow into his head and he is kind of shocked, and I wonder if this is a future or something. He wonders what the heck that was, and it seems like it was actually the predator sensing. He says according to his predator senses, a guard will come in and break his back, or just beat him up. He then climbs up back into the vents, and this guard is absolutely shocked as we see his expression through his helmet, seeing the dead body of the woman and her head detached. And he says, what happened here? But our MC then pops up right behind him, and oh yeah, this RMC he should just become an assassin or something. And just like that, this guard is also dead as well. He then mentions that his colleague might come look for him, and so he goes up into the vent now, and it seems like our MC just got 2 kills, and yeah, our MC is probably smurfing in these lobbies. He then is at his nest and he begins to meditate and use his sensing, and he then looks around left and right, and he says, it seems like nobody is here, and he's going to use his evolution. We then see his claws, and it then begins to flinch and ooze, and there's this sort of weird mucus or weird substance covering our MC, and it seems like it's adding a thick layer above him or over him. He says this is very interesting. We find out that if he had the memories of a fetus, would it really be something like this? Because he really feels himself evolving as we see his body right here. He says that the mucus is reassembling him to something different. As we see, he literally discombobulates, and he says all he needs to do is wait. We then see drip, drip, drip along the pipelines on his nest, and finally our MC has torn this sort of brown colorish, and it seems like something begins to crack out of his shell, and our MC then hops out, and oh my gosh, it seems like he's grown to an overgrown beetle. He then looks at his hands, and he looks at his super sharp teeth, and he then lets out a roar. But hold on bro, you're gonna get caught. Let's not do too much roaring here. The captain then says what was the cause of the death, and the doctor mentions it seems like she got attacked in the neck, and everybody is quite shocked at this, and yeah, this is kind of gruel guys. Anyway, he mentions, would you like me to of course do an autopsy, and it seems like he begins to sweat nervously, and the captain says I have no idea, and he's definitely stressed because of course that was the main researcher. He then says, head security, what's the status of the hunt of the culprit for this? He said the guard who's the primary suspect is currently in questioning, and he then asks if he is the one who is guilty, and of course he says it's highly likely that he's not, and yeah, they're all getting nervous as they glance at each other because I'm pretty sure they know that there's something here. Well, it's probably one of the lab experiments that they think it is, and yeah, they're definitely scared now. He mentioned that of course one of the promising talents failed to obey the orders of the head researcher, and his brain was extracted to float around in a glass tank. And he then says, what do you think will happen to those people who are involved in the death of a noble capital? And everybody has chills sent down their spines, and so of course they're definitely all going to be executed and tortured if they find out about this. One of them mentions, what if we say that there was an accident? However, the other one says, there are too many researchers on board to go along with that story, so they might not believe it. One of this dude, a random side character with glasses, says, she was food poisoned. And of course, that's kind of stupid. And they then begin to fight it out on which reason they're going to go with. However, we hear a slam on the desk as one of them mentions, fighting only does nothing, and they all look at him like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right. He then suggests to the captain that we're now located to a planet called C-08, and this is also known as a territory of the space dogs. And of course, the captain mentions, what are you trying to say? The head researcher died because of them? And it seems like this is one of the best chances, or one of the best reasons that they could give. The captain then begins to ponder, and it kind of looks like this guy from Star Trek. I forgot his name. But the reason it would be a good story is because the space dogs are a bunch who wander through space and just pretty much take everything. And they're one of Megacobs' enemies. They're expert in combats as well. And so of course, they even damaged veteran soldiers as well. And yeah, this is pretty much the perfect backstory. He says we will be able to cover up the death of the head researcher. He mentions that it's not a bad plan. However, they are no match for the space dogs, so it will be actually hard to really cover it. But he says I can contact them. And the captain mentions it seems like this guy really does have a few pirate friends, and he wonders how much it would cost. After hearing 1 million credits, the captain grits his teeth as strong as he can. And the guy mentions that this is actually a reasonable cost, and yeah, if you killed a nobility like that, 1 million is not that bad compared to the suffering that you will face. The captain says you have to do everything perfectly, and then he bows down. The captain says, let's go and hand the body over to the space dogs. Our MC is right here, and it seems like he is gathering up air for his new body. And look at this dude. He looks super menacing, getting stronger and stronger, and I know he's gonna cause some damage. He mentions, so this is what it's like to be a youngling, huh? He then stands up, and he mentions that until now, the key was to avoid the eyes of the enemies, but of course, our MC is going to be doing the hunting at this point, and a system notification pops up, and he wonders what his next goal is. It seems like, of course, the first evolution was successful, and he is a youngling, and we find out that Amorph's evolution is divided into 6 stages: hatchling, a youngling, then following is a juvenile, a sub-adult, and an adult. And look at this adult, guys. This looks like a max level Ben 10 space alien. I don't know about that. And after adult is of course the ascension. He says that after Ascension, he pretty much finishes a game, and if Amorph ascends in the game, all the secrets will be revealed, and I wonder what's that gonna look like. He says the problem is that it is quite difficult to get to the real ending, and so of course he then begins to just go through of course his status window. He then says, wait a second, the type can be unlocked from my stage right now, and he wonders what would my type be? Physical strengthening or something? He then clicks on the type to be unlocked, and yup, physical strengthening type has met the most of the conditions. We see that the types are similar to occupations, as we see a heart here, a fist, a bicep, and of course the aura with fire around the person. And he mentions, what the heck is 0.5? He says 1 is probably the predator sensing, as you see his physical strengthening is 6 out of 10, but his superpower enhancement is 1.5 because he doesn't really understand what this is, so he's quite confused. He says that he ate spiders, cockroaches, and even that cute little cat, and rest in peace to that cat, but hey, he was eating good before he died. He mentioned, wait a second, I remember, the only person that I didn't finish eating was Kisaragi Yujin, and so it seems like he had psychic power, and that's where he got that 0.5 from. Our MC then crawls to the ventilation, mentioning how it is way too small now, and he's like, hold up, nah, this is gonna get kinda bad. He mentions that he does smell a dead body. He then scurries around through the vents, and he finally found it. This is a mortuary where they hide it, the body of Kisaragi, and it seems like our MC is going to have to get this to get that extra 0.5 ability. We see Kisaragi Yujin right here, and we see the person just chilling on his headphones looking at the stats and stuff, and he then sniffs something, and he wonders what the heck is that smell. He then sees a hole here and sizzling acid around it, and oh my gosh, our MC is just menacingly crawling on top of him, and he wonders where did this come from. And yeah, this guy is just rest in peace to this guy. He then looks behind him, mentioning that he really has to call security now, but oh my gosh, it is too late, and our MC just eats this dude up like he's gonna have a mukbang for lunch or something. And it seems like there is a dead body. He then removes the blanket or whatever, the cloth from it, and it is Kisaragi Yujin. He says that she indeed is in noble prime because she looks the exact way as she did when she died, and a body is never to be touched, but her MC does that. And he then looks at the head, saying, I don't even feel any remorse or guilt when I kill somebody. He wonders if he really changed after becoming an amorph. He says, was I just this cruel monster all along as a human? He then opens up his mouth, and it's time to eat and rest in peace. Well, not rest in peace, but hey, he's just getting another free meal. He mentioned that the life of an amorph is quite sad and he really needs to get used to this as there is no turning back. It seems like he has finished his meal and he then sees something on his tongue like, wait, was this inside her heart? He has no idea what it is for, and we see something pop up, and yep guys, he says that he just accessed a gene essence of a superpower organ and she definitely had psychic power. He then says, why does it have to be a superpower organ? Because of course, it's practically useless for him to have this characteristic. We then see the tentacles come out right behind him, and we know what? He says you never know, this can be actually pretty useful in the future. Our MC then eats even more, and just at that second, he looks away, and it seems like the guards just change shifts. And so this other guy is handing him a power suit, and it seems like our MC can literally see through walls, and this is a pretty OP ability. Everyone is going to be super scared if they find out about this, and so he's not strong enough to face the entire crew as they have guns and such, and he looks at the body and he wonders, what exactly should I do? He then says, wait a second, this is a mortuary. There are preservatives and chemicals to dispose of the body, and he then smiles right here, and look at the sharp teeth covered in blood. Oh gosh, I guess we also as viewers gonna have to get used to this, guys. We find out that Megacop doesn't have an official city, but they consider Earth to be the center of the society, and so there are 5 known families. One of them is being Eugen, and they once resided in East Asia, and yup, they started as a business in a small country called Korea, and yeah, that is probably real as it gets, guys. So, hey guys, there might be a zombie alien in the sky, we don't know. Whatever, I'll keep on going. Anyway, we then see right here, somebody is farming, and 2 men in suit, these are like the new men of black of the story, and he says, I've waited long enough, please come over here. He mentions that it is about his granddaughter, and it seems like Miss Kisaragi. He mentions, oh yeah, that's the daughter of my 3rd child. He is then super happy and lively and bubbly, and he mentions her signal device has been destroyed. He says there's no way. I've never had her do any stressful work. He then begins to ask and probe, and the guy mentions it turns out to be in the Space Dogs' district. He then he grabs a soldier and he just literally kills him on the spot. I thought this dude was a humble farmer or something. And of course, he gets super angry and he beats him to a pulp even more with the, I don't even know what this is, a hoe or something? Or maybe it's a scythe. Let me know guys if you know. Anyway, we then see more men in black come out and he says clean it up. He then puts his hands behind his back and he says you tools are the most important things to us. And he then bows down and he puts his hands in his pocket even though it's filled with blood. He mentions it cost me 10 billion credits to raise Kisaragi. Oh my gosh, what the heck? He says that's the cost of developing a new vessel, and he mentions that some simple pirate, there's no way a simple pirate could have harmed her. He wipes the blood off slowly, like on his face, so he can look as innocent as ever, like an innocent old man. He says who had the guts to do this? He says the vessel she was on, the captain's name was Yu Sung Samuel, was it? And the old guy is sweating nervously, as he affirms, yes, it was. He says they definitely do not have the nerve to challenge the Eugen family. So what do you think, kid? As he turns around and asks him, even though this dude he's asking is probably older than him. He mentions it's probably the doing of T and C, and he then opens his eyes for the first time, and yep, it seems like he agrees as well. We find out that TNC and the Ascertain family appear to be fighting over rights to Jupiter, but they're actually a team, and so the Ascertain family credits come from the TNC. He mentions, I'm sure that a sneaky dude probably did this from the top of the board. Of course he agrees, saying, the TNC Chamberlain is after your position as a CEO, and he then begins to laugh, and then he stops. And then he says, let everybody in the family know about this. I have a shadow undercover near C-08. Let him deal with this. And this old man with glasses mentions, this is going to be a bloodbath. And he gets even angrier as he points to the ground saying, bring Yosung Samuel and everybody who has anything to do with him right beneath my feet. And he says whoever touches my property will die. And he only sees Kisaragi, his granddaughter, as property. And this world or this universe really is messed up. We see the captain here in absolute rage as he wonders what the heck happened here. He then mentions and tells everybody, was there a fire or something? What just happened? And one of the soldiers says, yes sir, there was a fire. We then see the clinicians as well as the doctors go ahead and get the bodies and wrap them up. And he says, how could a fire start in a room full of dead bodies? And this is kind of confusing as this guy gets suddenly a revelation or some sort, and he wonders if there are any bones more than that. And of course, this guy says, wait, no way, this can't be. He says, Captain, please round up everyone. We might be in big trouble. We are now at the round table, or let's just call it I don't even know what this is, a hexagon. Anyway, it's a table, and he says the bodies of the research leader and the guard are missing as well. This guy begins to sweat, and it is a captain. He says, wait a second, dead bodies cannot walk, right? And yup, it seems like their plan to blame it on the space pirates are going to go awry. He says somebody set up this fire on purpose, and this guy with glasses mentions, who on earth would do that? And of course, one of them, kind of laid back here, just says, wait guys, maybe there's an alien or something? Come on guys, what are we doing here? Nonetheless, other people yell out the reasons, and they just begin to bicker with each other, but the captain slams his hand on the ground, and he says, we have to find this body, no matter what. And so they have to narrow down a list of suspects. The captain yells out in roar, saying this isn't just about me. Everybody involved with this, the death of a noble, of course, is going to die with us and get tortured as well as their families. And there is a long silence that goes throughout the room, and it seems like people are understanding. He then calls the crisis management leader, wondering if he made contact with the space pirates. And he says, yup, I did as soon as the meeting was over. He then mentions, please don't tell them about what happened, because of course that would ruin all their plans. Nonetheless, he puts his hand on the head of security, and he says, you better do the best you can. No, even more than that. And he then glooms over him, mentioning you can go through every single crew and find the culprit, and this has gotten very serious for them. Our MC is just looking down from the vent, and I think this is probably his 20,000th time looking from down here. He said things really went well. He pretty much just got the chemicals in the mortuary to create a fire, as we see him doing it right here. And well, he has more than 4 hands, or more than 2 hands, so things are way easier for him. Nonetheless, he even put a few of his acid blood, and this is what really worked to cause the fire. And so he smiles, saying his heart really skipped a beat, because of course, things could have gotten way wrong for him. Nonetheless, he looks at the other crisis team manager, and he ponders and wonders if he might be working with the space pirates. He then has a skill on, and he notices the supply management leader strongly denied the alien's existence. However, it seems like he is looking left and right as he is scared now. He then leaves, and by the way, for a supply management leader, I feel like he's been eating all the food. Anyway, no offense to him. Nonetheless, we see the monster, our boy, just climb in through the vents, and he wonders why he's so wary of the surroundings. And he says that this supply team management leader is acting very suspicious. He then sees a cargo container right here, and it seems like that was where the supply manager went, and he mentions that his ID card and fingerprint has a high level of security compared to the rest of the things on the ship. Our boy is really curious now. He says he was going to go after the medical team leader, but he's going to have to be the next one, because the first one will be the supply team. It seems like they were in a bar, and this guy says, sir, why the heck are you drinking so much? You're so fat. Wait, he didn't call him fat, but he said, you know, it's not good to be drunk. And he mentions, you know what, it's nothing, just give me one more. He says life isn't really what it's supposed to be, and it seems like he shouldn't have listened to the black market cult merchant, and oh my gosh, it seems like he was doing some shady business. He says if only he would shut the container door properly, then that evil substance thing would not have gone out. And wow, the captain is going to find out the reason, and of course this guy is absolutely gone. But the bartender mentions that they are closing, but he asks for one more drink, and yeah, this guy is cooked. We see him staggering, and look at this guy, he can barely walk straight. He says drinking is the problem. I tell you, it really is. But then he suddenly becomes sober as he does a 180 right behind him, thinking someone or something was there. But just at that moment, we hear a clicking sound, and he sees the foot of our MC. He runs so fast, and it seems like this guy should have been in the Olympics for the 100-meter dash, and he tries to open up the container using his fingerprint and his ID, and of course, he crashes to the ground, and he's wearing flip-flops. Like, really bro? You know, maybe you should get some running shoes. He then tries to get a hold of the red phone, and he dials a number, but just at that second, it seems like our MC managed to get in, and look at him right here, looking completely menacing. He then faces the supply team leader, and of course, course, it seems like this guy has met death, and yup, we see an image of the supply team meter from our MC's mouth, and chomp chomp, this guy just got eaten for dinner. Our MC then mentions getting rid of this guy was super easy because of course he's starting to get and like this pattern of living, which is kind of crazy. Nonetheless, he explains that this guy spent most of his times at the bar and smoking, and he was getting overpaid, and you could just see by looking at him. He mentions the captain should thank me because I'm getting rid of the people who are actually doing him no good at all, and our MC is literally in a pile of trash, and he gets kind of pissed even though he is a monster because it's so dirty. He then says it's so filthy, and he is literally so tired. This is kind of funny seeing a monster tired, just cleaning up the trash. We then see a lady with a bikini right here, and come on bro, even if you are a monster, don't get any ideas. He says, yep, I don't feel anything at all, even though that woman is hot, and it's probably because I am a monster. And yep, he finally received the key card, even holding, oh gosh guys, he gets the key card, and literally it's his hand. The hand is literally cut off here, and it was in his hand. He mentions that he should probably clean up as he looks at the body, and yeah bro, you definitely should. He says that this guy doesn't even taste that good, which obviously, you know, he probably wasn't eating the best stuff, and so he just goes up to another door. He then uses the key card, and then he has a hand to put in as a fingerprint. And yeah, wow, this is really straight out of a movie. He then sees right here is all of the experiments in the test tubes, and he mentions, oh, I see, they're being freezed inside, and he really is curious as to why. He is then shocked because he sees eggs right here, and this might be the thing that the supply leader was referring to. He says, I really came out of this egg, and bro didn't even know where he came out of, and yeah, probably because he wasn't conscious. Nonetheless, you find out in the game, the starting of him is usually not in a spaceship like this, because of course, you know, it's actually in an archaeological site, as you see all of the eggs found right here. He mentions that it's probably because he found it in the black market, and after I hatched, I had to go rampant. He says that really explains why the cockroaches tasted so delicious. It was what he ate actually to survive after being hatched. He then says thank you to the shell, and yeah, I don't know what our boy is doing. This guy's just so funny. Nonetheless, he grabs even more and he begins to eat on them. Are you kidding me, bro? This is cannibalism, bro. Well, for monsters. He says that of course this is going to make him way stronger, and I want to be the only one to be the strongest. He then sees something else, and yep, it seems like there are more boxes filled with black mice institution and stuff, and he just eats, and I wonder how many pounds our MC weighs as a monster. I'm gonna go ahead and say maybe 500 pounds at this point. We see his notification thing pop up, as we see everything right here. His species is an unidentified aggressive space morph. He's still a young one, and his goal is just survival, like us humans. Just kidding guys, we have a more beautiful purpose than just survival. He mentions he was kind of disappointed when he ate Kisaragi because he thought that he was going to get the psychic power, but he got some other useless power as he just leaps away these containers trying to get back to his nest. He is now back in the vent, and he mentions with his newfound ability, it's going to be definitely useful as it's pretty much a strengthening one. He says he doesn't know how strong the space dogs or the space pirates are, as he looks very, well, excited here, but he mentions here I come gene essences, and I'm guessing that the gene essences are going to help him become way stronger. And yup, our MC is about to go on an absolute rampage. We are now on the runway of the Megacob research ship as we see a lot of planes just chilling over here. We see, hey Scott, it's dinner time, come on, let's get a drink. This guy mentions, I'll do it in a bit. He really says, how long are you going to do that? You've been doing that for hours. He says, well, I'm going to do long enough so that I don't have to work late. Anyway, we see the tools and the different wires here on the ground, as people are really confused about the recent maintenance order, and they seem to be eating here. And honestly guys, this is one of my dreams, or you know, I would love to just eat here in a spaceship. That would be pretty cool. Nonetheless, he says, hey Scott, what do you think? Don't you think it's really odd? And of course, he says, Fincher, what do you think? And of course, you know, Fincher just wants to eat, and he says, let's not talk about that. Scott mentions they were preparing to capture the metallic gremlin, and Fincher mentions, wait, we won't stand a chance if we ever run into one. However, the room starts to become smelly, and who the heck farted? Just kidding, but everybody mentions that, yeah, this air has been smelling kind of funky, and they wonder what the reason is. Somebody also said that somebody in the kitchen has been disappearing one by one, and Fincher says, yeah, what a load of crap. Somebody then rushes over to their table, and this guy is really nosy. He says, yup, I heard something else as well. And of course he says the cargo manager got promoted, making him the temporary leader because a supply management leader went missing, and our MC was responsible for that. Fincher says, theoretically, let's say people go missing. Then why aren't the people above they're not even doing anything about it? And it seems like Scott says, I think it's because of the metallic gremlin, and so they can't do anything, and he just gets up saying, come on, let's just go. And what does that have to do with spaceship maintenance? And wait, it seems like our MC might be after this crew next. We then see Fincher as he looks at Scott, and this guy looks really pissed off for some reason, and they just look at him as he leaves. And he says, yeah, what the heck is going on? Anyways, we are now back at the ship, and we see Scott working late at night as we hear, do you want anything to eat, Scott? And I wonder who this is now. Anyway, of course, he looks over to the person and he says, hey, Cameron. And it seems like that was the person calling over him to eat. He says it'll only take a second. And of course, it seems like, oh, Scott is really pissed off here, guys, as he slides under, of course, and goes out. And he looks pretty pissed off here. But he says, wait a second, where the heck did Cameron go? He says, as we see the window or the door open, come over here, Scott. And it seems like this might be bait. Scott then enters and he says, what the heck are you doing in the dark? He mentions that he's looking for something. He then steps in with his flashlight and come on, Scott, you're not going to survive a horror movie. He mentions that, wait a second, it's that smell I smelled previously. The smell of metal as well as something else. We hear, right over here. And it seems like Scott manages to fall to the ground and he hits his head sadly. He opens up his eyes like he has the 6 eyes from Gojo. Just kidding. But anyway, he looks really scared and nervous here. As he mentions, he can barely see, even with his flashlight. And he says, wait a second, am I going to be missing next? And yeah, bro, I wouldn't overthink it, but just underthink it because you're the next one. We hear, Cameron! But nope, it is our MC as he grabs him by the head, and our MC just smiles with smoke coming out of his mouth, saying, you are welcome. Nonetheless, we hear the grueling noises come out from this little tunnel or whatever, and what a rest in peace for Scott. We then see Fincher and he says, I brought some liquor, so of course to have some drinks with Scott since our conversation earlier didn't really end the way I wanted it to. He sees his tools as well as his little roller bed, and he mentions, where the heck did this guy go? We hear, I'm in the maintenance room, and of course Fincher says, oh, got it, no worries. He's in the same position as Scott was, and he says, what are you doing in the dark? He says, can you please help me get something? And Fincher says, what exactly are you doing? As he spots the flashlight on the ground, curious as to why it is there. He then goes to pick it up, but he feels he feels blood coming around on his neck, and he says, what the heck is this, as he looks at his hand, and I think he knows his face, and he says, why is there so much blood dripping here? I, Fincher, need an answer. And yup, he sees the head of Scott, and oh my gosh, guys, this might be grueling, so please close your eyes. And, well, just like that, it seems like he was the next victim, and our MC is going on an absolute rampage. He then mentions, I have a thing for imitating voices. As we see right here, we find out that a red worm is a giant worm that lives on desert-type planets. And look at this kind of looks like a goat mixed up with something. And we see it get absolutely devoured. Oh my gosh. And he mentions that it's great that he learned the genetic essence from the red worm larva, as we see it right here in his neck. And so it's really good to mimic voices and such. He then begins to eat on these cow brains and such. And anyways, he says, what should I eat tomorrow actually? He says, probably somebody from the kitchen, and he's eating his lunch right here. He says, was his name Pure or something? I don't care. Our MC is walking out and we see no blood on him. He's spotless, like he just used Mr. Clean. Anyways, he crawls back into the vent. As he mentions, wait a second, I'll probably pay a visit to that slime later on. And yeah, you definitely should. He then gets a tingle, and it seems like he got another function from his superpower organ. He's able to communicate with a living thing that talks through wavelength. He then says hi back using his little tentacles on his neck, and we hear, I'm hungry, food. And he is absolutely shocked that this person can actually talk. He says, wait a second, is there something about psionium that I actually don't know? As he begins to ponder, and it's kind of funny seeing a monster do human actions. Nonetheless, he says that this is going to be hard today as he is in the vent talking to that person. And it seems because the reason why is that he doesn't know where the heck the passageway he is in leads to, and yep, this can definitely go wrong if he accidentally goes to the head of security's room or something. He then lets out a sigh of breath, mentioning, all I can do is talk to him, and you know what, that's gonna have to do for now, bro. He then says goodbye and he says, you know what, have fun over there, man, try to eat food, you got it, bro. And our MC really is not that encouraging. He mentions that in order to evolve, he must eliminate 10 members and from 2 different species with intelligence and take their genetic essences, as you see him right here. And look at this, guys, I'm really excited to when our MC looks like this, and come on, just reveal the Pokemon already. He then takes a turn on a vent and he says, wait a minute, those space dogs, who knows what will happen to them when they find the truth. He then looks back as he notices it is a head of security and it seems he's up to something fishy. He says, who is he on the phone with? And by the way, that was a crisis management leader, by the way. He then says calmly, everything is according to plan. But then we hear what the person on the other end of the device, pardon. And it seems like an order came from the family, and oh my gosh. We see, of course, he gets nervous here, and yeah, you should definitely be nervous if the royal family gets involved with any of this. And our MC, it seems like our MC is shocked as well, because of course, Captain Yun-sung's orders have all been recorded, and the plane or the ship is going to land soon. He then uses his fingerprint scanner on this thing as well, and he says, I just want to follow the wishes of Jung-woo Yu-jin, and he's willing to take the risk. And our MC says that this guy is actually a snitch, and it seems like he's the one who convinced the captain to make his orders, and it seems like he's going to be framing him, and wow, everybody is cunning. The captain yells out, what on earth do you think you're doing? And this captain just yells out every chapter he's in. Nonetheless, he says we have to make contact with the pirates in 2 days' time, or else they won't be able to solve the problem. One of them mentions they've increased the number of cameras, securities, and stuff like that, and he then yells at the navigation team. But the navigation guy says, well, the previous supply management team leader, there's a total of 8 people who have gone missing on board. Our MC is listening in on their conversation from the vents, and he begins to smirk and even giggle a bit, and the captain is absolutely stressed right here as he literally flops over. He then says, wait, what are you talking about? And it seems like the crisis management team says the security team is telling the truth, and they did everything they could, but then somebody yells out, and it is a crisis manager team, and he yells out above the captain saying, I don't think a human can hide as well as this if the culprit is a human. And so it seems like they're going to be suspicious that there is a metallic gremlin living on the ship, and oh my gosh, our MC is just nervous hearing this. Somebody says the AI on the ship was used once to fight on a battle, and perhaps, you know, it could definitely be that, and a creature could be on board. And the crisis team says, I understand the capabilities of AI, being of course a former soldier. Nonetheless, he says, you guys should know this. The container that belonged to the supply management leader, it was completely empty there, and all the freezers as well. He then says, where could have they all gone? And they all begin to wonder, where the heck is everything going? And no, guys, it seemed like the captain just had a persona split, and he then puts his hand on his cheek, and he says, where exactly is everything hiding now? And the crisis management team leader says, we haven't been able to spot it. However, take a look at this. We then see a finger point to the vents, and our MC is right at that vent, and yup, our MC is like, wait, this guy's name is Arnold. I should have gotten rid of this guy first, because he might be the smartest there. He then says, as everybody is listening intently, we can capture it alive and hand it over to the noble capital, and that will be the best way to avenge Kisaragi, and to of course defend the death, as this guy mentions. What do we do about the pirates? Then of course, the captain says, we have to win a war from within, and of course this is going to be kind of tricky, but it is doable. Our MC then scurries away in a panic, mentioning that he has held out long enough, and so this day would eventually come as he unscrews this vent. And yes, our MC begins to go through the drainage and the pipes, and he mentions that vents are no longer a go for him. He then returns back to his nest, and he says, it is finally time to make an important decision. Am I going to run, or am I going to fight? And it seems like he is really conflicted in his mind right now. Our MC, oh my gosh, this is the first time I see our MC super angry. He gets super furious at Arnold, which is the crisis management team leader. And as of course, he says, capture me, alive, a morph? Do they think I'm some kind of animal? And our boy gets super furious here with smoke again coming out from his jaw and his mouth. And our boy is about to turn into Eren. He then yells out in a fury, I will fight, I will fight. And chill bro, they might hear you from the vents. And our MC really is somebody who doesn't like to give up. He then uses Link as we see a lot of rays come out from his circle. I wonder what's going on. He says that his organs are going deep into the ship so that they can start analyzing, and wow, he says he's going to know the information of the movements of the enemies and every single place where they are. And oh wow, it seems like we see the ship here, and it is covered entirely in his organ's aura, or his, I don't know, instinct, and it seems like our MC has everything in the palm of his hand. He says that these, as we see the commander or the captain walk in, considering that Arnold is here, they're going to commend the operation there, and he also senses the movement of armed soldiers in the vents right now. He then says, I'll work on the details and the enemy moves, and he begins to, he's literally in a trance just observing here, and he then grins, and how the heck does a monster grin? I feel like a monster is always grinning, and he says, this is my perfect victory. We see the team looking at the camera. This is Team A. This is Team A1. We're ready for the operation, as we see all the cameras here, and they are searching through the vents. Of course, the crisis management team leader says, this monster must definitely be the one who killed Mrs. Kasaragi, and if it isn't, then things are going to go awry. He says, monster, your day will be over. And it seems like this guy really is a hero or the protagonist if our MC was not the protagonist. They are then looking at the monster team on A1, and he mentions that there is a crossroads, so they're also going to be moving to the right. The guy on the control room says, join back as soon as you're done, because of course it's going to be disconnected for a while. We hear, this is a control room, you may take all the time you need. However, we see the crisis management team leader here, and he seems kind of mad, because of course the B3 camera isn't moving, as he tells a person in the control room to go and switch to that camera. We then see it right here, and it seems absolutely empty, and of course this might be suspicious. He says it's all good, as we hear a rattling suddenly come from that camera. He says, B2, wait a second, B3 is coming from behind. And they say, Roger, 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 we got this, as we see sort of a map here, and they're about to collide with them. Anyways, they then run into them, and everybody is shocked right now. The captain, the Genesis, or the crisis team management, as well as this other old dude, and oh my gosh, they lose contact, and the guy in the control room yells out, wait, what happened, what happened? And even the TVs in the control room have gone to static. Everybody is super nervous, because he says, it came out of nowhere, I couldn't see it, and they all go to the control room guy, and they say, what the heck is going on? Crisis management leader then says, we're going to get destroyed like this. We see B1 headed towards B3, and well, this might not go well. We then see, I'm hearing something. They are then wondering what the heck he's hearing, and then the guy says, something or somebody is approaching as he is holding his gun out on the screen. Genesis says, oh, it was just B3. Correction. And of course, the Genesis team leader, or what is he Genesis? The crisis team leader is like, ooh, that's a good thing. The control room guy also gives out a sigh of relief, thinking that they are fine now, but nonetheless, B3 has been taken by the enemy, and everybody is in shock. Of course, we then see the crisis team leader grabs the headphones from the control room, and he says, hello, this is your team leader. Elaborate on the situation. He says it happened so quickly. He just yells out saying, gosh darn it, what are you guys good for? Nothing? And of course, he begins to go crazy as everybody in the control room just looks at him as he goes on a rampage. He then drops the headphones on the ground in a fury. And wow, he mentioned it doesn't make sense. How could he know that, of course, they were standing right there? And he mentions that this monster might have some telepathy or like literally telekinesis or something. Of course, he says, wait a second. He then grabs the headphones right here, and he then says, this is team leader B1. State your rank and your name as well. We hear, I repeat, B1, state your rank and your name immediately, and there is no answer. We hear, hehehe, you got me. And the look at the face at the crisis team leader, he knows that the monster is impersonating them. We then see a crack, and oh my gosh, it is our boy. And everybody in the room is like, what the hell is going on? We then see the entire TV go static, and well, this might be their end. We hear A1, what's going on right now? And the crisis team leader is absolutely shocked looking at this. We hear, this is A1, please answer. And the crisis team leader seems to be kind of in a crisis. Of course, we see our MC crush the headphones and the earpieces of the guys, and yep, they're all eliminated, and he begins to hunt even more. And he tells himself, they planned on intercepting their radio using wavelength. This might be a hassle. We see that of course some of them had static as he takes off his helmet, but well, that was actually his end as our MC just killed him because of course that helmet was protecting him. He then eats him like he's eating a mukbang again. Oh gosh, this is so gruel. Our MC says, well, next up is Team A, and it seems like he gained some pincers below his jaw. And wow, our MC is just crazy. Nonetheless, he begins to go through the system as we see all of the other soldiers as well in the vents. He mentions that they're very alert, but our MC is way smarter. And of course, he then says B team was actually dumber than them. Anyway, our MC mentions that he needs to really use this information against them. The fact that Team B is actually gone, but they might not know about it. And we see a crossroads right here. He says they're going to be coming this way pretty soon, so I should figure out a way to eliminate these guys as soon as possible. And he says sometimes just knowing enough can be harmful, and yeah, sometimes you need to know more than you could ever think of. And don't worry, that confused me too. Yeah. They mentioned that this creature can imitate voices as well, and so of course they need to be on high alert. He says, shoot at the sight or the hearing of a human or voice. We hear, it's the enemy, open fire. Okay, I just did that for fun. But they did begin to launch away, and we see our MC might actually get hit by their laser beams, and it seems like they actually weren't getting trolled. Nonetheless, we see the enemy is already behind them. Wow, our MC is too fast. And well, this guy is nervous, and he's not going to be nervous for long because his life's going to be taken away from him. And boom, he's just like that. He's gone. As we see the feet of him on the ground kneeling, and our MC is definitely about to devour this guy as we see him literally eating them in front of the people. Oh my gosh. He says open fire immediately as he goes to shoot his gun once again, and we see these green laser lights or laser beams come out of it, and our MC is getting hit by this, and he gets pretty furious as we see his expression in front of us right now. He then scurries away, and it seems like there's acid that dropped on the ground and it phased right through this metal because he has acid breath or acid saliva, and this guy is literally choking and his insides are getting burned up by our MC. Or by our MC's acid blood, and they're trying to revive him, but it seems like they're not going to be able to help him because he is having a seizure as well. They're injecting a remedy from his arm or his arm computer, whatever this is, but we see blood and thing gushing out of him, and guys, I'm not going to lie, I think I would just call it here, guys. You know, this guy has passed away. Nonetheless, they say that this guy has sustained injuries, but they then point to the ground because of course it is acid blood, and he says that this monster is going to be more difficult to deal with than we expected. Of course, one of them is at the crossroads and he is looking to see if the monster is still there, but obviously it's getting too narrow now, and they wonder what they should do because they have to go prone if they want to go through. Nonetheless, we hear team leader, what do we do? And he says, you know what to do, go and proceed. We then see an eye begin to flash orange like it is Krillin's super move, and this guy is trembling right here for some reason, and there is a bloody sort of mist in the air. He then grabs onto the metal. What the heck? He became super strong all of a sudden. He says, I will kill this dude, this stupid monster, and this guy just got a burst of adrenaline, and wow, these guys might be a problem for our MC. They look at this hole that our MC made with his saliva or blood, which is kind of sus, but nonetheless, they're contemplating going through this passage right here, but guys, come on, this is literally a trap that is waiting for you guys. He says, we'll check the halls, tell us your location, but guys, oh my gosh, our MC is right behind them, and our MC is just so good at sneaking up. He then leaps away. This guy turns around super fast though. You know, props to him for having such reaction time, but I know that it's already too late. Our MC yells out and he looks really pissed here because he has been sustaining damage from the laser beams, and well, it seems like he already closed the distance between him and this soldier, and so he grabs onto the soldier's helmet, which also covers the light, and he just drags it all the way to the ground, and rest in peace to this dude. The other one gets even more furious. This is the guy that made a dent in the vent. Oh, that actually rhymed. Nonetheless, he then lets hell break loose, and he, oh my gosh, our MC gets actually a lot of damage, but well, he used the other guy to protect him. This guy has a fist, and oh, he's really gonna punch our MC. He says die, and this guy just awakened his Sharingan as you see his eye turn red right here. He then slams, and it seems like he missed, but actually it seems like he did that on purpose, and it seems like he just let a barrage of shooting once again. He then yells out in absolute agony because two of his close companions have just passed away, and we see our MC just leaping through the vents at a supersonic speed, and yeah, our MC would be super annoying if he was my ranked opponent. Nonetheless, he mentions that they had an enhancing drug that made them actually way stronger, and he gets nervous because he actually got injured and he has to adjust his plans. He says there might be another way, and he has a revelation. Eureka! Yup, there seems to have been one. He says there is one way. We see the body of the soldier just lying down right here, and he is super tired. He opens up his eyes and he sees the monster creeping in from the crossroad, and our MC just goes full speed and come on bro, give this guy a break. He then goes and is right in front of him, and this guy is absolutely trembling in fear, but our MC isn't eating him right away. It seems like our MC is just observing him. Oh my gosh, our MC just stabs him. I was mistaken, guys. Our MC really just doesn't give a crap. He then does it, and of course, he then begins to eat this pork meat. Obviously, it's not human, guys, right? Anyway, he goes crazy, and he goes to eat, and our MC really should just start a mukbang YouTube channel, but nonetheless, it seems like our MC says, that should do it. And it seems like he did that on purpose to make sure that they know that A3 has been attacked, and I wonder what strategy our boy is cooking. He then cracks on the glass once again, and it seems like another one of the TV goes out in static, and it seems like he wants more people to come there so he can devour them as well. We see the body of A3 right here, absolutely massacred by our boy, and of course we see his comrade go up to him, and he just yells out, A3, please answer me, dude. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, this is kind of a sad scene. But just at that second when he wants to administer the cure, welp guys, we see him get stabbed right through the stomach, and oh my gosh, he rolls onto the ground, and we see our MC's, of course, his hand come out of the dude's body, and it seems like our MC was hiding as he crawls out of here, and it seems like he's finally glad that he got some fresh air. The guy is trying to crawl away, but it is too late. Our MC takes off his helmet, and you guys already know what happens next. Of course, the guy is crying, literally, as you see the veins and everything right here, and he cannot escape, and it seems like our MC just got his third meal. Nonetheless, it seems like they actually saw this happen right here, guys, on the big screen, and they are all in panic. Like, what the heck is going on here? Is that really something true in front of us? The crisis team leader says, oh my gosh, as he sweats nervously, because how are they going to take this person out, our MC? Our MC mentions that with the warning he sent, they're definitely going to come at full force, and pretty much our MC is going to have an all-you-can-eat meal or a buffet. Nonetheless, he says they have plasma weapons which are designed to destroy high firepower battleships on the sky, and well, they're actually mainly used to destroy ships or tanks. However, they're way too big, and so as you see it right here, it needs 2 people to carry. He says they have some lighter versions as well, but still, it's not enough to take our MC because he's way too agile. He says, I doubt the ship will have one of those lighter ones because of course it's just a small one. But then he sees all of the soldiers moving towards the agriculture sector, and he wonders what's going over there. He says that this is his chance as he dashes all the way in the vents towards that center, and it seems like he's going to ambush them, and our MC is really ahead of the curve. Literally. Nonetheless, everybody begins to wonder, saying, wait, where did that monster come from, guys? What do you guys think? They begin to yap, and it is also the captain as well as his crisis team leader. And our MC mentions, so these were the leaders, huh? That's what they're doing. He then says to himself, the power suits that they are using, it's not really going to help them. And yup, they definitely spent thousands on it. The crisis team leader says, it can imitate a human, and it is extremely intelligent, which of course is hard to deal with. They then begin to discuss, and the crisis team leader says we shouldn't make a move with the little information that we have. But the captain insists, and he says, what better plans do you have in mind? He says, I would like a request to use a plasma launcher in the armory, and even the captain is shocked because he probably forgot that they had one. The people mentioned we were going to use that to fight the space pirates, come on guys. And it seems like of course their plan is going to go wrong since our MC is here, and he says wow, they actually had one as he is on the vent. He then uses his skill again, and he mentions that even everybody there is in confusion. And so the closest one to me that I can get is this random guy. Guys, come on bro, an extra that's gonna go. Wait, but actually it seems like this guy is actually the person who actually tortures number 26, which is a slime, and our MC is going to get revenge. He smashes the vent, and the crisis management leader is like, wait, what was that? And our MC comes, oh my gosh guys, this would be so scary in real life, but hey, I'm not scared of this thing. He comes crashing down in real life, and he's about to eat this guy in an instant, and well, that's exactly what happens. They then begin to wonder as they watch this, wait, how are we going to deal with this? But our MC doesn't even care about their yapping, talk no jutsu, and he just jumps up into the air, trying to chase the others. He bites somebody else in the shoulder, and yep, this guy is definitely not going to be able to move, and we see everybody in his path is getting demolished by his abilities, which is pretty much just biting. The people at the control room says, "This is the control room. Listen, we need to get out of there." But just at that second, he gets eliminated as well right here. And this is way too cruel. We then see plasma sort of beams hit his body. And it is the crisis team leader. He says, "Hands in the air." And come on, bro, you think our MC is going to do that? He mentions that the crisis team leader is not even going to leave a scratch with this thing, and it's literally an ordinary Glock pistol or whatever. But our MC suddenly has memories flow into his mind, and it seems like these memories are pretty much based off his skill, and they're memories when, of course, a crisis team leader shoots at him. He then looks like he's kind of surprised by this ability now, and he mentions this is actually a plasma pistol, and it is actually one that is going to be able to hurt our boy. We then find out that he has a relationship with the Eugen family, and that's the reason why he has one of these things, which are super strong. And he says, "Oh, so you noticed, huh?" It seems like he drops the gun, and oh my gosh, he brings out another pistol, and that is the one that our boy sensed, and everybody is like, "Wait, where the heck did this guy get this?" He says, "I don't know exactly what you are, but you definitely remind me of somebody I once knew." He says, "A monster with various abilities. You're like my master, Si-hyun Eugen." And yup, that Eugen guy who eliminated those guys who gave him news is definitely the master of this crazy dude as well. We see the crisis team leader, and he's literally shooting at our boy, and it seems like, of course, our MC mentions that things aren't looking kind of good for him, since this guy is probably the greatest crisis that he's faced since he was born. Nonetheless, he says that he's been in worse situations when he was playing the space game, and so he's definitely going to overcome this. He says boars, lions, and wolves are some of the, of course, the scariest things they've come across in the media. They are portrayed as literal violence itself. However, you see, they aren't as cruel as you might think they are. We see an image of him here playing his game, which is kind of good to see him finally playing, and he mentions a person like me who's played Amorph in the game, he took to heart that, of course, cowardly prudence is probably the best thing a hunter can have. And so our MC is right here trying to run away from the attacks. Nonetheless, he says that this guy really is good, and he uses his ability for navigation, mentioning this dude was probably pretending to be nervous up until now so that he would come and get a hold of him. He mentions that this guy has the same hunter blood as him, and so he has just as much experience as our boy at this point. Our MC is just trying to get away, leaping over a lot of things, and we see the crisis team leader not stopping, and this plasma gun has like infinite bullets for some reason. We see, of course, the elder and the captain are like, "Wait, you're literally going to destroy the control room." And of course, the crisis team leader says, "I'll keep that in mind," but he probably won't at all. Anyway, it seems like he keeps on shooting and navigating for our MC, but he calls him a little rat, and it seems like he is finally getting to the point of getting mad. Our MC is right here as well, getting pissed off too, and he says that this dude's literally trying to trick me. The Genesis team leader tells everybody, assemble all the units right here, and it seems like he's going to plan on ending our MC. We find out that this dude is actually stalling, and it was just a trap to keep our MC in this place, as you see the captain and the other dude are just literally here behind the counters, really scared. Our MC just smiles and he says, "They had me fooled." However, wait a second, what is this? It seems like he found a fire extinguisher, and I'm guessing that this may be effective against his gun. We then see our MC lets out what's inside the fire extinguisher, and it seems like it acts as a smoke bomb like Naruto. Anyway, the crisis team leader then shoots, but he seems to be missing our MC a lot of times, and so everybody is coughing and everybody's mentioning how they literally cannot see a thing, and this is going to be leading to their demise. The leader then yells out, "Get your weapons, what are you planning to do with the weapons you have?" However, it seems like he is super shocked now, as he just lost sight of our MC, also the space monster. Of course, well, it's not the end yet, and our space monster MC says this dude caught on really quickly, but it seems like escaping wasn't the plan, as our MC goes to eat the people that are on board. Nonetheless, we see the other dude also having a normal gun, looking for the captain, and hears a voice of the captain, and so of course he says, "Wait a second, what is that?" as he turns with his gun. Obviously, guys, it is actually not the captain, and it is our MC mimicking his voice. And just like that, well, blood is splattered all over, and this blonde guy is definitely nervous as to where this monster is. Of course, we hear, "It's a navigation team leader, trust me," but he can't trust anyone, as of course he keeps turning around. We hear, "Just do it, just shoot," and this guy shoots his gun even though it's probably going to be ineffective, and well, it seems like he hit somebody, and oh my gosh, he hit the crisis team leader, and yep, this guy just looks behind him and he then shoots at our MC because I'm guessing that he found him, but our MC just dodges it by a hair as he tilts his head to the left a bit, and our MC just keeps on running around using the smoke screen to his advantage. We then hear something begin to grow, and our MC has just grown wings. Oh wow, our MC is going to be super hard to deal with now, and our MC is right in front of the crisis team leader, and well, he has finally met his demise. We see that his body is absolutely gone as it flops to the ground, and yeah, this is definitely cruel. And we see the blonde haired dude, and this guy lived longer than the crisis team leader with the plasma gun. That's quite surprising. And he sees a monster right there, and well, we see, oh, I'm not even gonna show this, but you know, you guys already get what's already on the mouth of our MC. Nonetheless, our MC just split and splatters away as he flies as well, and it seems like he left this guy alive. He then crawls out of the vent, and he says, you know what, after a long day, I really need to have some more food, as he begins to keep going through the vents, walking around to find a new safe spot. The captain yells out, you morons, what took you so long? And he is talking about the people who failed to get there sooner. Anyways, he then tells them to clean this all up, and yeah bro, how about you clean this up? Nonetheless, we hear, are there any survivors left from the attack? And this guy says everybody is dead except for some temporary workers and the temporary head of research. He says wait, the senior researcher is still alive, and we see of course he is in a test tube right here being kept alive. It seemed like this was a guy our MC managed to let live or something, and you look at this, he's scarred badly. Nonetheless, we hear, why don't we just surrender to the space dogs? And the captain just looks at him with eyes of disgust, and he says, you've gotten so selfish. He then turns around like he is a, like a little brat and spoiled kid, saying no, no, no. He mentions, as he gets really serious, how many people did we actually lose? And it seems like this is going to definitely affect how things are going to go in the ship, and our MC mentions that they aren't going to survive a battle with the space dogs at the rate things are going. He wonders if he should just abandon everything, but we hear, this looks different from a normal gun, and yup, it seems like it is a plasma gun as a soldier gives it to our boy captain, not our boy, we don't claim this guy, and he says there's still 60% energy, and even though it is cracked, it's good for self-defense, and he's going to keep this for himself. He then walks away, and he says there is still a monster on board and we are going to be fighting it, so we need to do our best, but what can I do? Our MC is right here as we see a lot of the acid. Oh my gosh, it seems like he's growing a nest here, a new nest. He then of course is just here bathing in it or whatever he's doing, and he mentions that he really needs to expand his nest because of course they're going to expose the vents. He says there are currently 3 places he can pick. First is a cafeteria, since food is necessary for survival for him and of course for the humans. Second is the armories where the plasma launcher is kept, so they won't be able to defeat him. And third is also the lab where the psionium is and the DNA samples. And so there's probably only a 10% chance of gaining a property or an ability from the samples. So he does mention though, even just with psionium, he'll be able to have the power of a juvenile stage amorph. And so that's definitely something that he wants to have. Nonetheless, he says, yeah, I'll just steal the plasma launcher if anything goes wrong. And so he said he wasn't really thinking of using it, but he can't shake off what Arnold said, which was a crisis team leader. It says that his sister, Si-hyun Yoo-jin or whatever, or his master, sorry, is somebody who is an absolute monster, and he doesn't know if he can necessarily take this dude on. He says there's nothing scarier than an unknown enemy, and that's something we should apply, guys. You definitely need to know your enemy before you fight them. He says number 26 seems to be in a good mood, as it seems like he talked to him, and we hear, feeling good, yes, no pain, and our MC might look crazy if he was a human just talking to himself. Nonetheless, he wonders if he should take a really bold and riskier step, but we see something get activated. It seems like they are red lights, and oh my gosh, did our MC just get caught red-handed. We hear, what are you doing? And it seems like he's talking to number 26 as he mentions that he is simply waiting. He says, waiting for what? He says, you know what? I don't even need to sneak around anymore. He just gets his hands ready and he breaks the vent open. Let's freaking go. Our MC's about to take some action. He says it's been a long time and he's talking to the slime number 26. And of course, it seems like it's healthier looking at the color. He wonders if he should bring this slime with him because it will actually starve to death if he does not. And anyway, he says a bubble amoeba isn't really picky with food, as you see it right here trying to look cute, and we really know this person's already deadly. He says, do you really want to get out? And the slime says, get out? Where are you gonna go, bro? Of course, he mentions out of the lab, silly, and of course the slime says yes. Our MC says, alright, be careful and watch out, as our MC just does a full-on dive right here like he's doing a long jump or something, and what douche, he then breaks it and he grabs the slime with it as he covers it with his torso from the breaking glass, and it then thanks him as it bounces around on him, thanking for saving him from that little test tube. Nonetheless, he says hang on and just wait a second. It seems like he's going to make a nest in the lab here, and he then barfs not just kidding, he then releases his acid blood here, and it then solidifies, and of course the blob, the number 26 slime, is like, what the heck, this guy's crazy. We then see he begins to work his magic, or his insides, technically his acidic blood, and it seems like he formed a really complex nest, and he mentions that yup, this lab is completely unusable at this point, and maybe I even overdid myself, as he grabs a random brain of an animal, of course, and well, he begins to chomp down. He then mentions that, well, I know I'm supposed to be getting nutrients from this, but I really just can't shake off the flavor, and so we see the blob also gets its own fair share of meat here. He then says, wait a second, somebody is coming, as he turns his head to the right. He also says that one of them is a walking soldier and one of them is a researcher, and our MC's ability of seeing through things and sensing things really is way too useful for him. They seem to walk inside and they are absolutely shocked and are horrified by what's here. They say, what the heck is this? And it seems like they probably think it's some overgrown moss or something, but nope, that's our MC's barf, and it's gonna be kind of funny when they find that out. Nonetheless, the soldier says it looks some sort of like roots or something, and yeah bro, I guess you could call it that. The soldier then points his gun right here, and well, this seems kind of dangerous, and seems like it's not a plasma gun. Oh, never mind, it is, and our MC begins to dodge it a bit, but it won't actually affect him. Our MC just stabs him in an instant, and it seems like, you know, that guy was just light work, and he just cries for his life, as of course he begins to cry out blood and spit out blood, and our MC probably eliminated like 50 people at this point. He then says as he steps away, just another day in the life. The researcher or the doctor or whatever then begs and pleads for mercy, but our MC could not care less, as his role in this game is to keep on eating. The slime says pain, pain, and our MC is like, what the heck are you saying, you little blob? He mentions this was actually one of the part of the bubble amoeba experiment, and this must be angry because this guy that he's holding right now is one of the persons that tortured the slime. Anyway, it seems like this guy is then shown the blob right in front of him, and he says, oh, he doesn't even have time to say anything. The blob just opens up and changes its shape and just goes around its head, and it just suffocates him, and that's a really cruel way to end. Nonetheless, our MC just then begins to eat other stuff and get a smoothie or something, and of course, a notification system pops up, and we find out there is a eye type that can be specialized. Would you like to strengthen your physical? And it seems like your MC is about to get way stronger. And also guys, there is this funny image in the comments saying what he'll look like after physical strengthening, and I'm just going to show you guys what it looks like right here. Our MC then grins, saying that he really reached his goal faster than he would have thought, and of course he mentioned that he's really satisfied that he got a new type. Anyway, he then grabs onto the little blob, and of course just plops right here like the little slime it is, and he says, this won't take long, little blob, you don't even have to worry about it. He then clicks accept, of course, and our MC is definitely ready for this new phase of his life, and something begins to happen. Our MC begins to get more veins around his back and such, and it seemed like he's going to become a bodybuilder. Just kidding, guys. Anyway, the blob is super surprised because our MC has gotten way bigger, and oh my gosh, this dude seems like he's about to become a titan from AOT. Nonetheless, he says I've grown, and the slime doesn't really know what grown means, and yeah, because I don't think a slime can really grow like that. Anyway, he says it's when a youngling becomes an adult, and the slime is absolutely shocked by this, and of course it then separates itself and just bounces up and down, and I'm guessing this slime won't be able to grow as big. Our MC then begins to ponder, saying I'm not fully mature yet, so this is just the start of my phase. He says my whole body feels heavier and way more sturdier, but that could also be a trade-off for his speed. He says he's also become taller, which is good, but he says that my strength and my thick legs are definitely going to be useful when crushing people alive. What the heck. Nonetheless, we see some more of his stats here. Make sure you guys pause if you guys want to read this. He mentions that natural recovery has become better at this point. And also we see his type right here, he only has 2 out of 6 superpowers, and so he definitely wants to get more. We find out that he obtained a superpower strengthening first, and that gives him around plus 10, and the numbers really go probably to around plus 20 when he acquires way more, mentioning that he doesn't have a choice with the danger coming ahead, and so he just has to accept any superpowers that he retrieves from now on. He says, I'll postpone unlocking the new type though, as of course we see a hole in his hand, and I'm guessing, yep, it seems like there is a sort of vine that comes out, or a sort of sharp material tail, and it literally cracks through the cement wall or the test tube right in front of him. He mentions that this is really good, and this will be helpful in taking out opponents that are far in range, or just using it for assassination. Nonetheless, he needs to contain the organs, and he says, alright, my little nest is actually going quite well here, so it seems like I'm going to turn this entire ship into my fort, and our MC really is a pirate. Somebody bring this guy into one piece. Nonetheless, he just walks away outside of the room, and we already know that number 26, the blob, is just following him as it goes on the shoulder, wondering where he is going, and he mentions, don't worry about it, I'm going to the hangar, and he says, I wonder how the crew will react if they see me, as we see a really cold image of him right here with the pink slime on his shoulder. Everybody is literally in a rush as we hear, hurry up guys, we can't wait any longer, we need to get the heck out of here. Anyway, this guy says close the door, and it seems like it is a super close call here, and he tries to lock it in, and this guy just has his face glued to the wall, and he is in absolute turmoil. And of course, he then kicks this dude out, what the heck, and he says, move it bro, we got no time to waste. He then shuts the thing with the lever, and it seems like this guy has pretty good survival instincts. Our MC manages to of course just break through the gap, and well, we see a smile here, and that is not a pretty smile. I think he needs to use some whitening toothpaste. Nonetheless, we see a lot of people gathered up here as our MC just faces them, and of course everybody's faces have turned red and they are in absolute shock. Our MC goes on a rampage, like, you know, this guy is playing a video game here, and of course, well, technically he is, but nonetheless, we see the hands on the windows, and wow, this is very spooky. We are now seeing the outside of the ship, and this definitely reminds me of Star Wars or maybe Star Trek. And then we see some sort of weird looking eye here. I don't know what this is, if this is from a human or what. It seems like this is of a person, and he says, why can't I hear the footsteps of a doctor? He wonders what the heck is going on and why am I in this pain? He says, I would rather die than live like this. It seems like it is the person that, of course, it is a person our MC let live, and he opens up his eyes and there is nothing there literally, and he sees our MC and he says, this is a monster that has literally come for me, and I wonder if this is the day of my passing. He then begins to use the computer and types in the passcode, and of course this guy wonders what he's doing. We then see, oh my gosh, it is our slime, and it goes on top of him, and it is the one who does a job for our boy. And then of course he yells out for somebody to help him, and he says, just eliminate me already, I don't want to live any longer. And it seems like he finally passes away. 3 hours longer, we see our little slime, and it is literally just chilling here, and it seems kind of tired. He says, are you really done eating? And the slime says, yeah, I'm done eating, you got it. He says, how does it feel to get revenge? And it seems like the slime doesn't even know what revenge is. And then we see a skeleton right here, and yeah guys, this is probably what they use when you're in school and they're trying to teach you about the skeletal system. I'm just kidding, I don't know. Our MC then says, wait a second, this slime is kind of scary. I hope it doesn't develop sea demon, which is a superpower. He explains that it is something that only lives on sea planets, and it's about 25 meters long, and it has tentacles in its body, and we see one right here, it has a bunch of eyes. Oh my gosh, put this guy in the Narutoverse or something, and wow, this seems to be an OP slime. Our MC mentions, if it really turns out like this, well, I'm gonna have a strong companion, and it seems like he is kind of excited and nervous as well. It then says that it is full, and it looks very tired, and he wonders if it has to rest because of all the eating. He then travels back into his nest, which is the laboratory, and he mentions the nest is coming along fine, and of course, he then says with a sort of menacing look here, our boy just became Sukuna, it's finally time to go looking for my next prey as he walks around the halls, and our boy really is going on a hunt. This is C-08, this is a Space Dogs cartel, and it seems we hear somebody pleading for help. It seems like this woman is being taken away by this bandit, and Piccolo, what the heck is Piccolo? Just kidding. It seems to be like some goblin or some sort. And the guy yells, "Hey, let go of her this instant." And what the heck am I watching? Is this some sort of drama, K-drama or something? Of course, sadly, he gets shot in the back with an attack or some sort, and rest in peace to this guy. It seems like there are bandits and they just attacked this royal family, and that was absolutely crazy. They then say to each other, "Let's take everything they have and let's eliminate everybody here," and the typical villains you guys already know. We see the royal family here gathered up in a circle, tied up, and they can't move, and we hear a lion guy or some sort, and he mentions, why, what a very pleasant sight for me to see. And what the heck, I thought this was like they were watching a movie, but this is actually real life. He says, "We've wasted time on this," as we see all the gold right here, and I'm guessing that this guy is a space dog. We hear, "Commander, how could you do this to us?" And this guy seems very angry. The guy lion then says, "You megacob pigs are always like this," and he's looking down on this guy while this guy is kowtowing to him. He then scratches his head and he says, "The defense forces should be on their way." And yeah, I'm definitely scared, huh? That's what you think. The lion guy finally stands up from this throne that he was occupying that probably wasn't his, and he then grabs a sword from one of his workers' palms, and this guy is absolutely scared that he did so. He then grabs his head here, and he seems kind of brutal, and well, it seems like he has no worries because he says he's gonna get rid of all of the witnesses, and this guy is one, and so he then says one last time, "Nobody will know what happened here. You got it, don't you?" And well, just like that, he licks like the— oh my gosh, bro, this isn't a lollipop or something. Stop licking that sword. And wapow, it seems like there is a splash of blood. And rest in peace to the guy. And he was living in his own K-drama, but this is a horror story. Or, I guess a sci-fi story. He then enters one of the ships again, and they all bow down to him. And how big is this guy? He seems like he's 3 meters tall or something. What the heck's going on? He then asks one of the subordinates, "Wasn't there something else we had to do today?" And this guy looks kind of confused, and he has a little green mohawk here. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty clean. Anyway, he mentions, "Go get me Manuel." It's not Manuel, it's Manuel. Kind of a weird spelling. And nonetheless, this lion guy seems kind of mad that he's surrounded by dumb people, and that's what happens when you lead bandits or space pirates. It seems like this is one of the researchers or something, and she asks very nervously, "What did you order from me, senpai?" Or she didn't say that, but she says, "What did you want from me?" Anyway, he mentions, "I heard there was work around here, and what happened to all of that stuff?" She then explains, well, actually, they were supposed to meet somebody with a connection, but suddenly, it seems like they went off grid. He then yells and she gets startled right here. And is she the only normal human on the ship? She explains, "You see, the thing is, they asked for us to get rid of a body, but of course it didn't happen because Yu Sung Samuel didn't get back to them." He says, "Oh, the Samuels, they're here, huh?" And she asks if he knows them. Of course, he says, "Yeah, they're the third capital of Titan. So whose body is the one that's dead?" She says, "From the Eugen family." And he then lets out a sigh of breath, and oh my gosh, he mentions 1,000,000. These guys are crazy. He says that they must be hiding something because of course things in Megacob have not been quite right, and he's starting to smell something fishy. He says of course that the Eugen family has been king of Earth the longest time, which is pretty amazing, and the Assertons are mainly focusing on developing vessels, but he says that something isn't right because the Eugen family should have body modifications and stuff like that, so you know what I'm saying, guys, so like they'll be stronger and stuff. So how the heck would he even name a price for that? Because of course that could mean his downfall. He just begins to ponder here like he is a thinker even though he's just a lion, and he grins with his gold teeth. He says, "This might be my chance to get rich," and it seems like this guy is going to be our MC's villain, or our MC's rival. He then asks if they got ambushed, and she says she's not really sure about that, and she is in a really reserved position, and she seems quite demure. He says, "Prepare to track them," and he points with his mechanical arm that seems to have a cannon on it, but anyway, he says, "Leave nobody behind, and make sure we destroy all of the evidence," and yeah, you're gonna have to face our MC for that. They then blast off in supersonic speed after attacking this sort of royal family ship, and yup, these guys are definitely worthy of their name, pirates. Nonetheless, we see a nuke attached to the ship, and it seems like they are very smart with their getaways, and wapow, that ship that they left is just now completely decimated. Of course, we then hear a knocking sound, and our MC seems kind of interested, wondering if it is finally them. Of course, he then uses his abilities, and he uses a link to go throughout the ship, activating his organs that he put throughout the ship. And he finally realizes something. It seems like people are drilling onto the ship to get into it, and this is actually going to be kind of hard since they're forcing themselves from the inside. He then says that this mark actually confirms that it is a space dogs, and our MC can literally see things like that's absolutely crazy. We see a hole from the ship, and somebody kicked the door, or kicked the melted piece open, and they then begin to flood in these different sort of animals, monsters, beasts, and we see one crazy dude with a mask here with his tongue out. Like, come on, bro, why is your tongue out? Keep that in your mouth for now, bro. They then begin to scurry, mentioning these guys are masters of war, so they know what they're doing, and they're very efficient of searching ships and stuff like that. He wonders if they're smart or stupid though, because of course, well, normally they would notice something's wrong with the ship, but they must be blinded by their greed, because 1,000,000 coins is actually quite crazy, as they kick open another of the melted pieces. They are then shocked as they see the entire place filled with these sort of vines thingy, and of course the lion guy says something isn't right. What could it be? One of the guy then says there's not a single soul on the ship, and there's these creepy looking trees around us as well. He then crushes his wine glass, mentioning, really bro, are you really trying to troll me? Our MC mentioned that there is 2 high-powered engineered hearts in this guy, and he is talking about this, this lion, and this is a Hulk mutant, and it seems to be the Space Dogs' crew leader. He mentions they also have a little cockroach or insect man here, which seems to be one of the person that releases pheromones from his body, and there's also a cyborg, which is somebody who's really useful in their crew. Nonetheless, our MC mentions he was having a hard time finding and killing 10 species besides humans, and so he's really optimistic now, as this is going to be a really good opportunity for that. He says this is quite strange as he sees this woman behind them. He says it's as if there is a computer in her head instead of a brain, and I wonder if this person really is a human. We then see the blob turn back at our boy, and it seems kind of confused. The blob then asks where our MC is going, and he says, yeah, I'm just gonna go take care of some business. You can stay here if you want. He then points at something to keep that safe, and he's talking about the plasma gun here, the plasma cannon, and yup, this is definitely important. Our MC has literally like 5-6 arms at this point, and he then just stomps out of the room, and it seems like he's finally excited to get another upgrade of his stats, and he rushes right here like our boy is in those cultivation manhwas where they fly on top of a sword. Our MC stomps out in full confidence, and he says they don't even have security systems, and I'm assuming that he went into a different room than where the people were. He uses his ability, and he says really, they would never think for a second to get robbed, and so they don't really have the good security system. He mentions, I finally found the nuclear reactor, and it shouldn't be far from here, as you see an image of it right here, and this looks very complex. He says that there are android security robots, and these are actually kind of unique. I didn't expect them to have robots as guards since, mainly they've been humans. However, he begins to wonder, how would I not get caught? He then licks his teeth and mouth, wondering, why don't I eat something? And oh gosh, don't tell me you're about to eat some metal. We see that he is around a corner, and he also spots some pirates right here, which is a bug or grasshopper, whatever this is. And then we have Arnold Schwarzenegger probably. He mentions, I'll deal with them right here, as our MC hops out. This guy is literally just biting on his toothpick, and our MC just ends it just like that. What the heck, our dude is so fast. We see this little other insect, and he begins to turn on the radio. He says cricket, cricket, but nope, his arm gets sliced off just like that, and he yells out my arm, as you see blood gushing out, and it's color green, so it's not that red, or it's not that bad. Nonetheless, he then begins to devour him, and he literally coughs out blood even more as he yells for help. But our MC has no mercy at all, and cause he hasn't eaten lunch yet. Anyway, we find out that he's actually on the enemy ship, and the reason why is because they're gonna have no place to retreat. We then hear some activity from the radio saying, patrol team, hello patrol team, is anything over there? He then says it's nothing, and of course it seems like he is imitating the people who had the radio before. The guy says quit slacking off as our MC begins to open through this other gate. He then rips it apart, and our MC has 6 hands right here, and yeah, those first 4 are really ripped. He then mentions that there's no need to fight the androids, and he then brings something out, and he pulls over a sheet, and he uses his acid rain to melt something. Yup, he just melted through the roof, and now he sees a nuclear reactor, mentioning that a human wouldn't have noticed right away, but he's dealing with androids, so they don't notice, and yeah, these androids are kind of stupid. Nonetheless, it's time for, of course, to destroy the engine here, and he uses his acid saliva or his acid blood to get rid of this nuclear reactor. You see the other people from Megacob, and they are going crazy, yelling, we're all gonna die, we're all gonna die, and one of them even has his legs, just cut off and severed. And then we see the Lion King, or We see the lion guy and they are both nervous, seeing what's happening. We then see them blowing up and getting destroyed, and they are in the control room where it is filled with the vines. The Lion King wonders what the heck is going on, because there are weird plants everywhere, and no sign of people. And he even had his guy replay the vessel footage, and it seems like they only saw people without limbs right here, and that is super scary. He wonders what they have been fighting with, and he then calls over to the Joker wannabe right here, mentioning just play some more things from the past. He then sees a Genesis team leader, and he says, play it back slowly, and make sure to be cautious. It seems, of course, that the soldier must have been in charge of defending the ship, and the captain, Yusung Samuel, the captain, was actually his underling. And yeah, that's not the right order. The lion begins to wonder, saying that all of their manpower is down. And then he suddenly sees something. What is that? And yup, it is a monster that they are going to have to deal with next. The lion mentioned that this guy is an intelligent creature, and so he's really dangerous. Since, creatures with intelligence are super dangerous, guys. Don't ever forget that. And why am I acting like we're gonna run into something like that? Anyway, he admits that he was worried about how to deal with the Yujin family, but he has bigger things at hand, which is of course dealing with the morph, which the space monster is our MC. He then calls Manuel, and I'm guessing that's the name of the scientist, and then of course, it seems, it's actually a guy maybe, and he seems very scared by what he is looking at, and wow, I just thought this was a girl. Nonetheless, he says, you said you lost contact yesterday, and of course Manuel says yes. He says that the vessel did not arrive and we searched an entire day, and the lion is kind of suspicious. He says, what creature is that? He then says, it's whatever. It probably doesn't even know we're here. And yep, that's probably where you're wrong. He then yells out, let's go look for the body. And they all say, you got it, boss. But then, boss, we have a problem. And another Mohawk guy yells out, boss, it's the ship's engine. It broke down. And of course, the boss is absolutely confused as to what happened. He explains that the core melted down as we see our MC's acidic blood literally break it, and this guy slams his prosthetic arm on the table, and he says, this crappy guy, how dare you mess with my ship? And he's very furious, and he mentions that he's gonna tear our MC to pieces, and I don't even think this guy's capable of that. We see the broken table here, and he tells Manuel, listen up, bro. Can you run the ship again? He says, I really have to check. However, it seems like that doesn't even matter as he just lets out an explosion beside him, saying, you better be able to, or else this shall mean your death. The lion boss then says, oh, it actually is a girl. I'm so confused right now, guys. He says, go help her out. And of course, the rest of you come with me and let's go kill that monster. Our MC has been using his skill all along, and so he knows what has been going up. And he then even laughs at him because of course he says, this lion dude is so easy to take off. And we see the ship right here in all of its glory. And he mentions, oh my gosh, there are about 20 survivors still on the ship. He said that he spared them out of mercy, but there's going to be a battle between Megacob and the pirates in general, and so he just puts some of his hands together here, only 2 of them, as he rubs it. And he says, yes, I'm just going to take advantage of this, and things are going to be way easier for me. He mentions there is a woman, as well as of course 3 pirates in the control room, and they are pretending to be normal as if nothing's wrong. And so he says he wonders, I wonder who this lady is. Is she Arnold's sister or something? And he says, considering she is a noble capital of Megacob obsessed with life extension, then it's highly likely that she has also been modified by the Yujin family or by Kisaragi Yujin himself. And so all he has to do is to evolve to become even stronger and become a juvenile. Nonetheless, he says, it's been a long time since I fought a genetically modified human. Both are super strong, and it excites him and scares him at the same time, and I'm really hyped for this fight scene. We see the Mohawk guy here as well as another insect guy, mosquito, whatever this thing is, and they are very nervous as we see the lion guy, their leader, is absolutely furious. Of course, we see one of them get a signal or an activity from the radio, and he says, boss, there's something here. He says a biological detector has detected humans. And he says, so what? He mentions, well, the path is blocked. We have to drill a hole nearby. But then he says, you're a moron. Do you ask for permission when you need a pee? And he begins to crack his fists, and yeah, this guy really is dangerous. We then see they begin to crack in a hole, and yeah, these guys are looking for permission. Nonetheless, they then kick it open once again right here. This is like the 5th wall they've broken down. And just at that second, while he's checking his radio, and you guys already know what's coming, he gets blasted in the face, and what the heck just happened? It seems like they started shooting in the instant, and yeah, that is just completely cruel, guys. And yeah, sorry for the gore. Nonetheless, you see, move idiots, and the lion just steps in like an absolute Giga Chad, charging in without any armor. He then punches the guy just like that, and his face is discombobulated, and he goes on an absolute rampage fitting of his name as a Lion King, if that's even his nickname. Nonetheless, we see all of them and they're super badly injured right here, coughing out blood, and he says as he holds one up inside of the air, "Listen, you wasted your time trying to rebel." One of them says, "Wait, I surrender." He says, "I don't care if you surrender." But then he says, "I'm the medical leader, I'm a doctor, and so this might be helpful." He says the captain left to escape the ship, and it seems like the captain ended up abandoning them. Of course, the lion says, "Really? This sucks," because our only lead as to where the body was is now in an escaped ship. However, he says, "Wait, you're a doctor, so where the heck should the body be, and why didn't he think of this earlier?" He then mentions, well, the monster has it, and he is kind of mad that our boy has it, and he says in his head, "Really? That guy must be kind of smart." He then yells out after there is a punch right beside him, "He only eats humans." And you know, it's not that good to give out half knowledge or half-baked knowledge. He says everybody spread out and look for the monster, as you see them getting ready to do so, and these guys just remind me of the X-Men, the way there's so many different races. He then tells the doctor, "You said you wanted to become a pirate, right?" And he says as he smiles, fakely obviously, yes, of course, because it's his only way that he is going to survive." We then see our MC looking from above as he sees everything that's literally happening, and he mentions, "It seems like it's my time to shine." Our MC picks up the slime and he mentions that obviously number 26 is going to need some combat experience, so this isn't so bad. And he says, "Where should we begin?" We say, let's start with the armory, as we see the soldiers in here, or the pirates, trying to break through this again. One of the monsters says, "What is this, a jungle? What type of ability does this monster have to grow an entire forest, dude? What the heck?" Just at that second, they begin to slash things. However, something pours out. It is more acid blood. He then says, "Look, it's the mucus actually," and these guys got scared for absolutely nothing. They then begin to laugh and joke around, and he says as he looks at his sword, "Wait a second, it's beginning to melt." And oh my gosh, his face has begun to melt, guys. And yeah, don't worry, this is just a comic. Don't get any crazy ideas. One of the guys says, "What the heck is going on, dude? I did not sign up for this." He then does a 360 as he turns around, and oh no, our MC just took him out in just one shot. Our MC really should just become an assassin or a ninja or something. Everybody is scared, and the green guy with the mohawk is there with his friend, the orange mohawk guy, as they yell out, "We have to kill it," and they let their guns go crazy. It seems like it doesn't affect our MC at all because he actually got the physical strengthening, and he just leaps at them, and like that, he just slashes one in an instant. And we also seen his new ability that comes out of his palms, like that sort of vine thing, and he uses it to its fullest extent. We see one of the grasshoppers get eliminated by number 26, the slime, and well, this guy is literally this is probably one of the worst way to go. You just get suffocated. We then see Cyborg like he is on the Teen Titans, and he begins to call for his mom, saying, "Please, the monster's here." But our MC just, you already know what he does, guys, and it's pretty bloody. Nonetheless, our MC then picks up the phone or the radio, saying, of course, as he imitates the voice, "Don't worry, we're all fine here." And he also mentions this crazy thing, saying, "There was nothing wrong in here." The guy says, "Then why the heck did you pick up the radio?" And our MC just says, sorry, it's my fault." And yeah, this is this guy's playing Among Us. This guy's the first Among Us character. He then picks up the cyborg, and it seems like he is barely breathing. He says, "I wonder if it's because he's a cyborg from Star Union." We find out that in contrast to Megacob, Star Human believes in replacing human bodies with machines, and that's why they were experimenting with people. As we see right here, they remove their insides and replace it with some robotic materials. He says the Megacob and the Star Union are both equally crazy, and yeah, this is what happens in a dystopia of space. Anyway, he gets a system notification. A part of the conditions has been met. As you see, he finally got the second intelligence being, 1 out of 10, and now he only needs to eat 9 more. We then see the slime say, "Hey, what's wrong, Mr. Monster?" He says, "Don't worry, it's nothing you need to know. Just know this, some may call the space dogs a disaster of space, but they're like Santa bringing presents." Because our MC is about to eat the cookies, or actually no, our MC is about to be the Grinch. We then see a cheap knockoff of the thing here, and he's shooting his gun. What the heck, this is so funny. RMC just grabs him on the arm with one of his arms and on the face with one of his arms as well. He then of course just discombobulates him as you see blood just splatter all over, and he mentions, interesting, I finally have 2 teams down and our MC is literally just speed running everything. This is crazy. He then begins to eat more and more and more, and we also see the slime eat some things here as well, and he is really surprised by its efficiency. Anyway, the slime then asks our MC if he's hungry. He says, nah, I'm all good, because he cannot eat that skeleton. It then begins to bong around here, guys. This slime thinks it's playing some sort of game or something, and he then just begins to eat, and he gets on the other radio saying, yeah, the lab is all clear, and yeah, this is getting kind of funny. We find out that Amorph is specialized for acting alone, but in reality, you know, when he was a human, he says he wasn't really friendly, and so in a way, he's changing because of a game, but I think you should be worried about the real changes, like, you know, hurting people. Anyway, the line mentions, something is going on. I'm pretty strict about reporting and stuff like that, and something doesn't seem to add up. He says there's something in my wild instinct that is warning me as he looks at his radio. He then says he'll just talk to Manuel or Manuel, and of course it seems like he wants to get down to the bottom of things. He then calls on to the doctor, and the doctor is absolutely traumatized as he says, what the heck do you want, sir? He then says, well here, little doctor, you know about this monster since you faced it before, right? And there's some random dude with a mohawk here guarding the doctor. He says, actually I haven't, and of course the mohawk dude gets angry, saying tell him the truth, but the doctor really is telling the truth. The lion then begins to ponder as he rubs his beard or mane technically, as he says, really? I thought this guy would be afraid of me. Anyway, the doctor says it moves like a ghost, it's just that quick, and it seems like of course this guy is getting scared now. He says the monster managed to eliminate a lot of people, and the lion dude really isn't buying this, but he says, you know what, just in case he's telling the truth, I'm gonna have to round them up, and I wonder what he's talking about. He then says there is a change of plans, and he's talking to the soldiers on the ship. He seems like he's about to launch a raid on our MC's nest, or wherever our MC is. He then uses net maneuver, and it seems like our MC has gotten control of every single place where the vines are. Oh my gosh. He then sees that some of the vines begin to glow, and he knows everything that's going on now, and they are all kind of confused as they look around at the trees moving or at these vines moving. We then see a dark substance begin to come inside of the air, and they are like, wait, what the heck is this? They then begin to choke as well. It's definitely a deadly poison, and some of them fall to the ground, and they are just rest in peace to them. They just got removed from the story. Our MC says, I carried it out of curiosity, but it actually seemed to have worked. But he does then say that he's actually getting dizzy because it actually used a lot of his power, and yeah, that seemed like it really did. The slime then says, where are you going this time? As he just mentions, I'm gonna feel hungry, so I'm gonna eat what's over there in that control room. He then begins to eat right here, guys, and let's not get any too crazy ideas of what else he's gonna eat. But anyway, he's just having a feast here, and it seems like our MC, I'm gonna go give a guess and say our MC has, you know, has at least 40 eliminations. I don't know about you. The slime also has an arm right here, and well, it's definitely going to chow down on that, and he probably thinks it's a pork rib or something. We see a stat window pop up, and he wonders how many more he needs to evolve, and it seems like he only needs 2 more. So he says, let's go, it won't be long until I become a juvenile, which is his next evolved state. We then see, he looks at the images from his ability and says that there are 2 over in that building and none over there. And so the only problem with the previous crew is that these guys also thought the same, that they were safe. They then are super scared right here as they see the pile of bodies. You know, everybody's just sleeping on top of each other here. And our MC just smiles as he puts his hand against the wall as he listens to their, you know, their screams pretty much. And he says as he crashes through the door just like that, it's time to go eat. And our MC looks like a COD zombie just running at you. And yeah, that is definitely frightening. We see bullets get launched at our MC, and I like how they always use the rat-ta-ta-ta-ta instead of like kaboom or whatever. Our MC just tanks it as of course he moves closer, and yeah, that's not something you guys want. This guy says screw this, and it seems like he brings something out. He's probably holding a rod or something like that. It seems like he clicks it, and oh, my brother just brought out a lightsaber. Bro does not think he is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Nonetheless, he calls himself the second in command, and bro thinks that he has some real power or something, and yeah, bro, sadly sadly that's not going to work against the monster. Nonetheless, he uses his sonic blade and our MC says, "Oh, it's a sonic blade, huh?" He mentioned it doesn't matter how good of a weapon you have if you don't use it right, as he already sees the weak points of this guy. He then jumps out and he says pirates always act so hastily without really thinking, and this guy tries to stab our MC, but he dodges it in an absolute instant, and whap, he just whacks this guy to the ground. And yeah, sadly bro, this guy is not Zoro. Anyway, we see him pretty much damaged in this photo, and oh wow, that's definitely gonna leave a mark. And he even has the audacity to keep yapping. RMC says that this guy is unexpected. This guy is a first prey that's really persistent, since of course the Crisis team leader, and this guy does not go out without a fight. Anyway, our MC then begins to eat his lunch, and he says, well, you guys already know that he only needs one more, or four more left, and he only needs one more to get a new trait, and if something pops up, and it is a system. It seems human nature. Oh my gosh, he can get human nature in his body as a monster. He says, what type of characteristic is this? He doesn't know if he should click yes or no, and yeah, I don't know what he should do because he is a monster. He explains that there are thousands of different characteristics, but not everything is beneficial, and yeah, he says let's think of Hulk's Mutant's Rampage characteristic. By the way, we find out that they gain twice the physical ability, but lose control right here, as you see a lion out of control. He then is just literally eating, as he's just thinking in his head, this might be useful, however it could be lethal to me in the end. And so we just see the slime here sitting on this lightsaber, and yeah, it's probably just wondering what the heck's going on. He explained that Star Union is actually something that kidnaps people and turns them into robots, and Megacob turns monsters into remodeling genes however they like. And so our MC is like, wait, but I don't even want the human qualities. Both of these unions and the Megacob are both bad. And he says the risk is too high, so of course he goes in to decline it. However, it seems like his world absolutely shatters and he sweats, because of course we find out that the subsidiary organ warned him to reconsider, as we see the little things on his jaw begin to move, and wow, that's actually kind of scary. He then says yeah, whatever, as he clicks on yes, and it seems like of course that it's going to go well. We see a bright flash in here, and what is Krillin going to use his flash attack? I'm just kidding guys, no Krillin hate on this channel. He says nothing's coming out of my head, I'm not feeling any extreme guilt or anything, so what just happened? We see he only needs 3 more to acquire the superpower enhancement type, but he really just wonders what is going on, and he's like, wait, what the heck did I just sign up for? The slime then asks if he is okay as he begins to boing up and down inside the air. He says, yeah, what's wrong? Do you need anything or something? The slime says you weren't moving, and it was actually quite strange. And he puts him on his shoulder, and they then begin to keep on crawling throughout the spaceship. He then smells something, and he mentions, I smell pirates on the different parts of the room, so of course it seems like he's finally get to meet the boss. We see one of the guys here, and he also has the sort of Arnold Schwarzenegger thing going on, and he's a cyborg. He says, I'm a pretty decent guy. Am I really going to die here? And he seems to be hiding inside of a locker room, or inside of a locker in a locker room. He mentions, Chief Subaka, please look over me and after me, because of course it seems like he's definitely going to meet his end. Our MC is just exploring, and it seems like he literally smells this guy, and our MC just begins walking around, and this guy lets out a huff of air saying, that was way too close. He's then looking outside from the locker, mentioning that nobody, even the Darva cartel, would be able to kill that thing. But well, just like that, he gets pierced in the stomach, and sad enough for this guy, his story has reached the end. Our MC rips through the locker, and he seems like he's going to be finishing the job that he started. We see another view from the mouth of this guy in absolute horror and agony, and yep, this is kind of sad, but you know, that's just what happens when you're a space monster and you need to grow and evolve. He says, really bro, you can't actually hide from me, by the way, I'm the MC protagonist. Or he didn't say that, but he mentions I have abilities for that does not happen. He said that makes 11, so he actually needs 1 more, so that is 12, and I'm guessing the characteristics or the requirements have changed. He says he wants to avoid Man Eyul, who is of course the lady that is in charge of the control room right now, because this is the person also with modified genes. He said he should take care of the leader, and it seems like his little antennas beneath the jaw just alert him. We hear, "There you are, you son of a trash," and our MC dodges this lightning attack or this sort of fire attack, and I'm knowing that this is already that lion. The lion gets furious, saying, "Was it really you who eliminated my 12 and my second in command and all of my men?" Our MC just looks at him, and he's also surrounded by the doctor as well as somebody else with a gun. He says he really found me first. That's quite amusing. He said I should replenish my gene essence after killing this Hulk mutant, and yeah, this is going to be a fight to remember. He explains there's even a temporary medical leader. I didn't expect that he would side with the pirates, but come on bro, do you really think this guy is siding with the pirates? I think it's more of, he doesn't even have a choice. Our MC says, "It doesn't even matter, I'm gonna eat them up anyway." And yeah, our MC should definitely he should have a food eating contest against Match Tony. Anyway, it seems like oh my gosh, guys. Number 26, the slime is literally trembling in fear, and you see, just go away and back off, and that's exactly what the slime does, as our MC is going to take care of this monster. We then see the slime as it goes invisible to not get eaten by this lion or not be seen by any of the other guys, and he then tells our MC to of course be careful. Our MC says that this guy is actually way more intimidating than he thought, cause yep, I was right, he is big and brolic and he's also 3 meters tall. And of course he just licks his lips and his teeth saying, he is a Hulk mutant, so let's see what he's got, and this fight is going to go absolutely crazy. We see the fight from the CCTV and it is about to begin, and they wonder, do you want your head bashed in by the boss? We then see the other people mentioning, he told us to help Manuel, and it seems like she's doing something in the system. She's now hacking or whatever, and they ask how long is left, and she says, "Don't worry, I'm almost done." And this guy says, "Really? How long does this piece of crap equipment have to get hacked?" And she mentions it's a bit old-fashioned, and that's why, and it is also a sort of an old AI, and she sweats nervously. Of course, she says it's the core of space engineering, yada yada yada, and of course they don't understand, so they tell her to, chop and simplify it. They then begin to look around the room, and they mention, "Come on, you just need to really hurry up so that we can go and help the boss." And she thinks in her head, Arnold did well. That monster hit itself using a smokescreen, but it really cannot fool me because of my remote viewing, and look at her eyes. She then explains that he emptied out the lab in the middle and got his hands on the gene samples, and that's why this creature is beyond clever. She also mentions that the creature only took the samples, and that's pretty much explaining that it is really smart and it knows how to use its skills. And she then looks at her hands and it literally turns into like a reptile or dragon or something, and she wonders if it is a monster that evolves by absorbing genes, and yup, that's exactly what her MC is. She then says that El Chen, the lion, will definitely not win because he is nothing but a monster strengthened by others, and we see him right here and he is literally a marionette, and yep, I feel like this lion is always being controlled by a sinister force behind him. She then smiles crazily and she smirks, mentioning, "I was getting fed up with my old man, and so this is really good news, and so, the old lion is going to be out of business or out of life." She then stands up and she mentions that these guys are definitely no use to her, and she says I should reduce the number of genes that the monster can obtain. They're then looking at her like, "Manuel, are you done with the assignment our boss, assigned to you?" And she seems to be walking, and oh my gosh. It seems like she takes off her glasses and she goes by many names as you see a blade come out of her arm. She is called the Helix Witch, and that's what the enemies of Megacop call her, and it seems like she is starting to transform into something sinister, and she's also known as a shadow, and everybody treats her with awe and caution. She then smiles at, "Yo, she's kind of pretty." Just kidding, guys. This girl's a monster, and she is called Code White. And we find out she's actually called Si Yoon, and she was the epitome of genetic engineering, and she's the forgotten heir, the only forgotten heir to the family, and it seems, guys, like this lady is definitely OP. The lion then goes to attack our MC in a quick scurry right here as he jumps up. Our MC tilts his head to the left and he dodges it, and look at our MC, he's already bleeding and hopefully he doesn't get worse. Our MC is about to hit him on his liver side, but it seems like he knees his arm away, and he then lets out a furious roar. And it seems like El Chen ain't playing no games, as our MC is kind of struck in fear. We then see something hit him, and oh, our MC then sees lightning surrounded. Oh my gosh. He got hit by one of those plasma chargers or whatever, and he mentions that it really stings around him, because of course he threw a grenade without him knowing, and so this lion definitely is kind of smart. Our MC is then looking at this guy, wondering if he's some sort of battle android, but that actually wasn't a bad choice of weapon, considering, normally lions, I would just expect them to like fight with their hands or something. The lion then says, "You're not a weapon created by Star Union, and I know that you understand what I'm saying." The lion then says something, and oh, something comes out. It is a red sort of bead, oh my gosh, that appears on the side of his mane. He mentions that there is a bomb in the nuclear reactor, and the switch is in his heart, and so if the lion gets eliminated, the entire ship will explode, and wow, this guy's crazy. Our MC is wondering why the heck this is, and we find out that he is not lying, as he remembers the memories from the doctor in the past. And yeah, the important thing is whether or not he'll actually blow it up, because this guy really values his life, and so he wonders if this guy is all talk. He mentions there's nothing about him that would lower his will to survive, and yeah, this lion definitely just wants to live. We then see red blood cells begin to go crazy inside of him, and he coughs out blood as well as he's doing a roar, and this guy's about to turn into another titan. We then see he clicks the button on his mane, and we see that's the reason why his blood cells started to go crazy, like whatever's happening. And it seems like he has got a new transformation, guys. He looks like his body's covered in hard stone, and yup, this guy is literally turned into the colossal titan. Our MC mentions that he looks so ugly, and he's actually transplanting the genes, but there's actually more to it. And our MC just called this dude ugly, but you know, bro, I think you're in no position to speak. Anyways, he then stomps on the ground as he yells out, "I will get you." And our MC explains that these guys are dragons of the rocks, and they are known as a mountain crawler, and pretty much that is the genes that he has. He lets out a roar, and our MC dodges it, or oh my gosh, our MC is just the king of dodging. He is about to hit him, but it seems like he's almost about to hit the bomb, so he has to, you know, pull back his tail, and he gets hit in the head just like that. And the monster looks really scary right here, and this ain't no lion anymore. Anyway, we see the lion literally hit our MC's head, and it has no effect as our MC runs away, and the lion calls our MC as bug, and it seems like they have garnered a bit of distance between him. Our MC begins to discuss in his head. He would have been dead for now if his head was not rock hard, but there seems to be some cracks there. He says, why did this guy bring up the bomb, and what exactly was he aiming for? And our MC says, so this guy really wanted to play dirty, and so he is ready to take revenge on this guy. The lion mentions, your attacks are literally of no use, bro. Of course, our MC thinks in his head, unless he aims at the heart, there isn't a lot of places to aim for, because these guys are literally rock solid, and the shells are way too strong. And the only thing that can break that is probably a plasma weapon, guys, but I don't think our MC has any access to no plasma weapon, and so he thinks in his head, as long as I can stab him anywhere in the body, it's going to be really good, but he also knows where my tail is going, and so I need to distract him with my body so that he won't be focused on my tail. He says that's the only thing that's really dangerous about our MC, and that actually kind of makes sense because that's like the sharpest point of his body and the most versatile. And he dodges another slam by this lion guy, and this lion guy keeps on slamming. You know, this guy should probably join the UFC or something. Our MC then leaps upon the walls right here, and the lion is literally chasing him. This has become a chicken chase. I don't know what it's called, and these guys are definitely just chasing each other now. He then explains that if he can break some of his shells and attack him, then this is really important because he can just emit the poison, and that's definitely going to be the deciding factor. And he is holding something in his hand very discreetly, guys. This is a sonic blade. Oh my gosh, I did not expect him to have this. He says this is where I'm going to break this. This is what I'm going to break his shell with. And he explains, Hulk mutants have an inherent weakness, and that's pretty much until he gets tired. And so we see he's at the cargo base right here, and our MC says, while the lion is literally chasing him, that I was born here, so I definitely know my way around the cargos and stuff, and this is where I'm going to stall time. And yup, he needs that sonic blade to definitely recharge. The chapter starts as we see literal cockroaches discussing with each other, telling you to subscribe to the channel, and then just at that second we see the huge lion monster chase after them, and look at these guys definitely trying to run away. He then crashes through doors and cargos looking for these cockroaches, and they just scurry up on over. One of them then gets stabbed, and our MC mentions as he begins to eat them, and he even crunches into them, I don't have the capability to destroy this monster right now. He mentions that Hulk mutants are usually so strong, but they use up a lot of energy as you see him tearing up through metal here. He then looks here and he peeks, saying his body will force him to stop attacking whether he likes it, because he's definitely burning through a lot of his energy right now. All he really has to do is wait. We then see the monster lion, and he's literally just going crazy, this Hulk lion. Our MC is right here. I don't know if you guys can see him. He's like right over there, and he mentions it's not going to be for long now. I can finally attack soon. He remembers that he has two hearts, and he wonders which one is actually connected to the detonator, because we find out that the main heart is usually on the left side, and so it's very likely that he's connected the detonator to there, and we see an image image right here. He then says that this dude is clever, and so he doesn't really know where it will be located. It could be switched up or something. And we then hear a yell at our MC, and well, he looks at it like, oh gosh, our MC has been spotted, and he jumps away, and it seems like he almost got hit by the Hulk mutant. Our MC begins to run like a coward, and the lion's like, yeah, run away, you coward. We then see something begin to happen. It seems like this sort of red mist is coming out of his body. He then begins to huff and puff, and it seems like his energy is fading away. Our MC is watching from the cargo, saying that this actually might be true, and so he would have stopped moving by now, but nothing changed except for the speed, and so this guy might still be strong, but our MC leaps into the air as this guy looks above him, and well, he grabs onto something, and it seems like he was actually ready for MC. He tosses up these sort of tiles or whatever, and our MC just leaps again and again, and he's dodging these things one by one like he has Ultra Instinct, and this monster Hulk mutant is definitely going crazy and mad because he can't hit him. Our MC finally lands on the ground, and this guy lets out a huge monstrous roar like he's about to become a titan, or you're actually already a titan, bro. He hits our MC on the head, and we see lightning strikes because of how strong the pressure is, and our MC, of course, does not like the attack because it actually hurt, but right on his hand is the laser beam, or the proton sword, and he then scratches one of his armor, and he says, what the? And yup, our MC made a hole, and he bites into the flesh, and we then see this sort of green, I don't even know what this is, vine lines or aura dissemination, and I'm guessing this is a lion's body. Our MC is literally hanging on the arm, and it seems like he might have infected him. Our MC calls him trash, and he goes to hit him, but then he suddenly staggers, and it seems like he got slower. Our MC is here as well, and oh my gosh, guys, he gets super scared and he's about to fall down, and that's exactly what he does as our MC is getting ready to tackle him like this is American football. And of course, he then says to himself, the paralysis effect is not as effective as it would be on humans, but the poison is still really strong. Our MC is close to his face, and he says, there is no running away, and of course this guy is absolutely scared. He then stabs him, and just like that, and well, he begins to pull apart his flesh, and our MC is going absolutely crazy on this guy like it is a mukbang. We find out that the detonator was on his second heart on the right, and so this guy might have not been the brightest person. Anyway, he then explains that the limits of this heart actually is because of genetic manipulation, and he wonders if he was actually trying to take him down if he died anyways, and so that was definitely dangerous. He then says it's time to eat this Hulk mutant sample, but then just as he is going through the heart, we then see the cute little slime. Oh, look at the slime, but this slime's dangerous. It seems like she is worried, or he is worried, and he wonders why it is worried. We then see he gets a sudden 4K moment, and he literally is awestruck. He gets images of him getting burnt up, dying, and sliced, and we see his body right here, and he wonders what is that, and of course, he is definitely confused by this revelation, and this is from his skill. He then dashes towards the slime, and he then grabs it, and he barely manages a fire attack right behind him. Manuel is right behind, and she says, I'd like to know. Prediction, where did you get that? And Manuel is definitely looking like a completely different person. She definitely did a 180. He mentions that he didn't expect her to come here herself, and this is obviously Manuel or Si-hyun Yu-jin, because there is a shiny blade protruding from her hand, and this is pretty much meaning that she is on another level of, another plane of an organism, and that is the White Galargon. She is mixed with some of its genetic traits, and he also, of course, says that he can never defeat her in her current state. And look at her right here, she looks kind of like an assassin, and it kind of reminds me of Killua, guys, or maybe his sister Aluka. We see her eyes right here, and she definitely looks very pretty without the glasses as well, but don't let charm deceive you guys, because this girl is so dangerous. I don't even know if you can consider her a human anymore. He says he needs to take a step back as she looks at the broken Hulk mutant, and the Hulk mutant says, Manuel, what are you doing? She then stabs his other heart, mentioning, I can't have you run away, can I? And our MC just says, really? She just did that in an instant. What do I do? He also mentions that the timer on the bomb should have been activated with her stabbing, and if he attacks her right now, the collateral damage will definitely make that bomb explode. She then, of course, is thinking in her head a lot of things, but she doesn't say anything. Our MC mentions that what the heck should I do? Could it be that she's just a space observer, or could it be that she's actually a maniac that's hungry for killing people or monsters? She says, you know what? You're actually similar to me, so I'll spare your life. Only if you serve me. She then smirks, saying, in other words, I want you to become my pet, and it seems like this girl has no idea who the heck she's talking to. Manil then says, come on, just become my pet, there's nothing wrong with that, and look how scary she looks right here. She then even grins, saying, in other words, yeah, all you have to do is become my pet, and since you also rely on genes, I'm pretty much the perfect master for you. Our MC then of course is just looking, and he really is nervous and he doesn't know what to do and how to escape. She says, come on and join me, and of course she looks very crazy right now, and how did she transform into this? He says, I can't believe Sehyun Yujin is demanding me to be her slave, like heck that I'll ever do that. We then see the lion literally just wrecked in the center of it all, as our MC is having a standoff against Manuel. He says this girl really isn't lying. The blade on her wrist is a claw of a Galargon, and pretty much that means that his shell won't protect him. And yeah, she also has a lot of different weapons, so he has to deal with that, and that's going to be definitely hard. The slime then is trying to contact her MC, but he just ignores her, and he says, submitting to her is a reasonable choice. She then begins to grin, thinking that it will happen. Our MC begins to crawl towards her, and she thinks that her MC is going to become her lapdog. She says, wow, 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 you truly made the right choice, and he begins to bow down, but the slime says, I'm here for you. He says that he doesn't know the reason, or she doesn't know the reason why I like a morph. We get a flashback to him in the past as he's literally just looking at a picture of it and he's like, wow, this is so beautiful. He says the reason is simple, the freedom to choose. I have the freedom to do it, and with the choices I make, I can grow infinitely stronger. As we see, his roots are very much linked to the ground beneath. He says that's really why he loves Amorph, and we see a vision of him running up to Manuel, and there's only one choice for him, guys, and that's to take down this girl. Oh my gosh. Manuel is looking down on him like she's degrading him, and she says, yeah, that's a good boy. But then, she then is suddenly shocked by something, as her MC slashes her, and oh my gosh, it seems like he also burned her a bit with some acid, and she says, so that's what you want to choose, huh? You really want to play? She then jumps up into the air, laughing like an absolute maniac, and I think this girl has lost it. Never judge a book by its cover. We see fire chasing our MC, and he's still holding on to the slime, so if that slime wasn't here, our MC might have a bit of an easier time. The rocks above begin to fall down from the sky, and he says that this woman is definitely way stronger than I am, and she's the most challenging enemy since becoming a morph so far. He then begins to think of a strategy and idea. He says, I always fought with other stronger enemies, and I always was a winner, so this should be the same. He says, I'll teach her that fighting isn't only about strength, and we see it is a lion, and he jumps out of the rocks and the rubble. He gets up saying, how dare she betray me? I'll make sure to bring her down and make her beg for her life. And bro, I'm not gonna lie to you, you're probably in the worst condition to say that. Anyway, his device was destroyed, and it's all over if it can't get to the engine room in 10 minutes, and he really wonders if he's going to die here. He begins to tremble, and says that's not gonna happen. He begins to crawl there because he cannot walk, and W bro, if you can't run then walk, and if you can't walk just crawl. He says, I am El Chindrava, the king of pirates, and bro is definitely not Luffy, but maybe he's a space version of Luffy. Like I said, he then begins to crawl, and our MC is literally just thinking as he is traversing the space around him. The slime says, are you in pain? He says, yeah, it's fine, because of course, his legs were hurting before. The slime asks if he's telling the truth, and he says, yes, I don't have time for this little slime. He then mentions that Sehyun's daredevil eyes have x-ray vision, and guys, x-ray vision, come on, that's a bit of a stretch, that's kind of OP. Even if he does hide, she'll find him in no time, and so that's also an ability in her eyes, and it's also sensual, and she really just got the 6 eyes. Are you freaking kidding me? He really is on a tight schedule, and stalling for time definitely won't be of any use, and he's trying to look for places to go. He says that she must realize that I'm worried about the bomb, and she probably expects that our MC is trying to escape using one of the spaceships, and he's thinking that she's going to block the entrance for the hangar for where all the ships are, and her MC says that's probably going to be her strategy. And he says she's going to subdue me with her overwhelming power, and that's pretty much the standard tactics. And look at her, guys, she literally did a 180. I thought she was like a science nerd, but no, this girl is definitely a maniac. He said it's like fighting with another player of this game, and an MC definitely knows that he is the best at PvP or player v player combat. For now, he's going to be focusing on eliminating the enemy rather than the bomb, and he still doesn't know how he's actually going to face her. He needs to think of a really solid strategy. There has to be another way because his attack and defense is way lower than hers. And he says, wait a second, I have an idea. And he goes back to the lab saying, oh my gosh, there's something that can turn it around. This is psionium, and once taken, he can use the ability of a juvenile body for a limited time. But that should be enough. We found out her technique is called the sword dance, and it is Galargon's technique, and it uses psychic powers as well. Because he has zero tolerance for his psychic power right now, that's pretty much super horrible, but when he evolves to juvenile, he'll gain that tolerance, and so our MC can combat her. If that claw is just simply transplanted to her, then his shell should be able to withstand it because it's not at full, purity and attack power. And he also says that the downside is way too much energy, so he wonders how he's going to think of a solution for this. He says that just means that I'm going to have to finish her off in that time, and there's no time to worry about his energy. Just lock in, bro, you definitely got this. He then drops the slime off as the slime asks, "Where are you going?" He says, "Don't worry, I just need to get something." He then begins to search and scour for it, and it seems like our MC is kind of having a hard time as he flips over everything. But finally, he grins as he receives it, and oh my gosh, he always wondered what it would look like in real life, and this looks exactly like he imagined. He says, "I'm going to see the side effects right now," as he grabs it with his claws, but the slime yells out no. He then wonders what is wrong, and the slime doesn't say anything. It then begins to get anxious, and he is really wondering and says, "Should I really wait for her to tell me what to do?" But he's running out of time, so he just takes it. Our MC then yells out in absolute agony and in horror, and he says he feels like his body is on fire and his veins begin to turn purple, and he even shatters the vial that it was in and the container. His muscles begin to grow rapidly, and oh my gosh, look at our MC, guys. I'm not gonna lie, this looks kind of creepy and scary now. He then says, as we see his legs even get bigger as well, "I can't pass out. I need to make it." And yeah, bro, this is absolutely insane. We see this mysterious pink and purple aura begin to come and emanate outside of him, and we see our MC's shadow, and his entire figure has turned black. He opens up his eyes, and his teeth have gotten sharper, his eyes and his gaze have gotten sharper as well, and his skin way tougher. We see our MC right here with an absolutely spiky tail, and oh my gosh, he has like 13 arms now, and yup, this Manhwa guy or Manhwa girl is definitely in for a rude awakening. The slime then jumps up saying, "Wow, you finally got big again." And big is an understatement. This dude is probably like 50 feet tall, or maybe not, but still. He says it worked, and our MC literally looks like a Decepticon here. He then opens up the system, and he is an unidentified aggressive space morph. Of course, he is a temporary juvenile, and look at all his abilities. This is crazy. He says he notices something. The reinforced exoskeleton became a monstrous exoskeleton, and he should be able to use them, he's talking about the horns on his head, to ram into his enemies. And yep, this Manhwa girl is definitely going to get hurt. And look at our MC right here. This dude looks absolutely fearsome, and the art for this is absolutely crazy, guys. We find out that he also has a new spike bone launcher organ on his left hand, and it's pretty much Spider-Man but a monster version. Guys, the strength matches the plasma pistol, and he can even add some attachments to it. We find out that the outer shell as well is covered with a shield that protects him, and this can pretty much stop any attack from that woman Manhwa. Anyways, he says the last thing I need to check is a time limit, and he says it lasted for 5 minutes last time. He then checks and wonders if it will be the same in reality, but he doesn't, and he says, "Yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna rely and hope that it is." He says I need to drain her of as much strength as possible before the actual fight. He uses Link, and let's go. His Link ability is way stronger than before, and it can go out through the entire ship now. 5 minutes is not a long time, and so we need to use these 5 minutes effectively, and 5 minutes is a long time, bro. Trust me, you can do a lot in 5 minutes. She then begins to walk across the halls, casually without a care in the world, as it is covered in these vines, and she suddenly pauses as she looks up into the sky, as we see something pop, and it seems to be some acid. She of course begins to get sizzled a bit by it, but nope, she slashes it away as a counterattack, and look at her face, she looks super creepy. We see a huge explosion on the ship, and it begins to rumble and rumble. Our MC and the slime are like, what the heck was that? He then says, "It's finally coming, huh?" He then tells the slime to hold tight as he grabs her, and she says, yeah, I got it, and I think the slime can be way more OP in the future. He is then running towards her, it seems, and he finds out that she broke the mucus with a sword, and that means that he knows where she is now, and he should definitely lure her to the spot where the nuclear reactor is. This way she won't be able to fight at full strength, and even the slightest touch or wave will cause a huge and massive explosion. And guys, you already know it doesn't matter how many genes you have or how strong you are, you can't really survive a nuclear explosion. Just one more sector and he finally is right in front of her, and she then says, with some of her costume broken up and tattered, where do you think you're going? She then gets her blades out of her arms. He then tosses the slime away. She lets out her fire attacks, and hopefully our MC survives this battle. Just kidding, he's going to wreck this girl and turn her into ash. We see her fireblade go attack our MC, but our MC looks like a solid stone wall. It slashes his skin, but to no avail, but it actually starts to happen and go pierce it a bit. He says, I just saw the course of her attack, and normally I wouldn't be able to see it. And he says, I wonder if this is because of my superpower organ. She then says, interesting. Our MC then jumps at her, thunk, 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 and she then swipes down her fist, and oh my gosh, our MC gets cut right in the chest. He mentions that it actually kind of hurt. She says that you are faster than before, and what do you mean? He literally changes appearance. She tries to kick him, but her MC dodges. Our MC goes to attack her as well, but to no avail. She then says that they are going back and forth. That's not going to be good enough to beat me. Our MC's tail then wraps her up just like that, like an anaconda, and he is about to unleash one of his strongest attacks on her, and it is right before her eye, his blade, but then she manages the last second to cut it off, and one of her blades comes crashing into the ground. But, well, she seems to regenerate it again. She smiles, even more crazier than last time, saying, you really have me cornered. But we see, even though she is wrapped in his tail, oh my gosh, we see red and black aura begin to come towards her, and he says, wait, her hair is turning red. She then slices off his tail just like that, and her MC is like, what? How is that even possible? He then shrieks out in agony as she steps on it. She says, you want to create distance, huh? Look at this girl, she looks like Medusa of some sorts. She says, this is the red mist, and you're quite interesting and smart for knowing what this is, as we see her MC's blood begin to sizzle the ground. He says this woman really is not an easy opponent, and red mist is actually a predator that lives on a jungle-typed planet. This thing kind of looks like a cheetah of some sorts. It looks like it is a red though. Might probably dyed his hair at Great Clips or something, or whatever salon. He says if she has hallucinating skills of red mist as well, then he has to defeat her before the psionium effect wears off, because, well, as soon as that happens, that's going to be hard to beat her at that point. We see that his thing still begins to sizzle. I'm wondering why this is still showing. Maybe there's some sort of effect that it has later on. He says panicking will not do anything, and all he has to do is to stay calm for a while and wait for the ultimate chance to get his get back. He then runs towards her, and she says, that's more like it. Come at me with all of your strength. They then go back and forth, and he even sprays some of his acid on her. She then slashes him on his left trap or neck, or I don't know the body parts of the monster, so I'll just say the left side. She says, you're boring me, as she gets angry and she's going even more Kaioken. Our MC shoots out the bones from his arm. She manages to push it away, and he says, I see. I know exactly what's going on with her. She has skills that matches those of players, but she has a very big weakness, and that's because she can't use two abilities at once, and oh, that really is a huge difference between somebody strong like our MC. She then bites her teeth, and she says, you're gonna get on my nerves, and it might just actually eliminate you. You will not be able to eliminate him. Comment down evolution if you made it all the way till the end. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. The chapters are still coming out, so I don't know when the next part is going to be. But without further ado, watch these other recaps, and I'll see you guys in the next one.